What is up, y'all? I'm sorry, Ike. I didn't know it was a targeted troll. It was masterful. Yep, the Lex Wexner song, because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. My goodness. But let's start the party with some solid JJ. Song is amazing. It's completely underrepresented. I was going to play it for every opening, but now since my streams keep getting clapped for playing copyrighted material, I just have to chill out a little bit. But that song is absolutely necessary right now because he was finally named. They finally brought up Lex Wexner trying to keep these files under wraps.
I got here as fast as I could. What's the emergency? Guys?
Tony, we need to talk.
What is this? What's going on?
And I have taquitos.
You have a drinking problem.
wait. Are you calling me an alcoholic?
Tony!
I'm sorry. You guys are a few years late, a few decades late. I've kicked the habit. I've stopped drinking for years. I'm sober.
We know.
Well, if you know, then what are we even doing here?
Like I said, we're here to talk about your drinking problem. Which is that you're not
If you
drinking
find me
anymore.
another version, I will play it till the wheels fall
Sorry,
off.
I cannot believe I'm hearing this. You guys want me to break my sobriety?
Not about
I will play it
conversation.
at every
What
intro.
the fuck is wrong with you guys? Why would you say that to
Tony,
me?
calm down. You're in a safe space surrounded by friends.
I am objectively not.
Tony, when your drinking really flared up, we were all so proud of you for cleaning your act and getting sober. The whole demon in a bottle business. We all remember that.
So why would you want me to relapse?
Well, you see, that's the problem. We all remember demon in a bottle. I can't tell you anything that's happened after that.
That's insane.
true, I'm afraid.
I'll have you know, there have been a lot of interesting and narrative-rich stories since then.
All right, name three.
Okay, yeah, there's, Armor
Or
Wars.
assault of alcohol withdrawal.
Right, Superior Iron Man, that was pretty good.
In which you started drinking again.
Ah, shit.
You did have rollerblades that one time.
That was a result of something way worse than alcohol.
Demon in a plastic bag, it doesn't really have the same ring to it.
Besides the fact this conversation is overly meta, I really don't want to be talking about this, all right? Being an alcoholic was the darkest time in my life.
But Tony, that brought
There's
a
so
lot of
much
depth
to go
your
over.
character, which added to the team dynamic. We had Thor, the wisecracker, Captain America, the rebel without a cause, Wasp, the woman, and Iron Man, the drunk asshole.
None of that was accurate.
Well, she might have been a man.
No, not. Wait, you want me to be a drunk asshole? That's what you want?
Well, of course not, Tony, but when you stopped drinking and got better, we realized that the asshole part wasn't from the drinking. That's 100% vanilla Tony Stark. Now you're just Iron Man the asshole with a sobriety chip.
People can get hurt. A lot of people did get hurt.
Tony, take this seriously. This is an
This
intervention.
isn't an intervention. This is a reinvention.
Enough! Please, stop fighting. We're friends here.
Thor's right. You should start drinking now.
What? That's not what he said.
Well, I thought it was implied.
Tony, your decisions are for you to make and for you alone. But I feel I must tell you that in the halls of Asgard, many tales of Valhalla are told. In all those tales, they surround one another and feast. And in those feasts, their cups are filled to the brim with mead, which comes from a goat's tit.
What?
Focus not on that. Mead is a strong alcoholic beverage.
That is
And
not
it
yet
be
confirmed,
that what they
Mike.
drink,
We
that
still got
means
more files to
alcohol is
go.
ordained by the holiest of holies. Everyone day drinks. It's literally okay and fun, actually. So you should do it and stuff. Says God. God says to day drink.
That
Oh,
works
shit.
too.
Iron Man, of all the heroes they sent to stop the great Magneto, they sent you? Are you a fool?
I'm not fucking anything, dude.
Why are you talking like that?
Why do you wear the fucking helmet?
My helmet.
Yeah, black
Tony's
psychic
wasted.
attacks and stuff. You think this is gonna happen? Like, you go to the deli, you just gotta have it on you all
Oh
the
my
time?
god, are you drunk?
I'll fuck you guys.
All right, just a refresher. I control metal, and you're surrounded in metal. I can kill you right now.
Yeah, but you know what's not controlled by metal?
Got plenty of things, but I don't know what.
Glass. You can't control glass, dickhead.
Throw a fucking bottle. Fuck, how
I
where are
got
you
fucking
getting-
so
How
many
many
of
of these
these
do you
fucking
have?
bottles.
How?
I throw them at you all the fucking time. They're
You know what? Fuck this. Bye. Tony, you did it. Being an alcoholic worked.
Yeah, dude, it fucking did it.
How you feeling?
It's fucking shit myself.
Oh.
Yeah, it's everywhere. But luckily, I built these with well, an idea for an upgrade.
This wasn't a good idea.
Self-destruct.
Whoa, what?
Nah, I'm just fucking with you. That's not a thing. Sponsor.
Oh no. Found this terrible thing. This is pure nightmare fuel.
Hi kids. Hi kids. Hey, neat old balloon.
Hi, Daddy!
Hi. Hey, would you help me? Please, Birdie, please.
What you want?
Please, would you tie
Being
your
an alcoholic
balloon
work.
strings around my
Exactly.
legs?
Maybe?
Please, would you please?
Yeah, I guess so.
Come on, try it.
Okay.
Time carefully. Oh, I've always wanted to fly. Oh, I'm feeling lighter already.
Zephyr, are you in the
All right.
files?
Keep going, kids. Keep going. Good
Are you
job.
here to run cover?
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, kids, when I holler 3, let go, okay?
Okay.
All right, 1, a 2, a 3. Oh.
Why does it make that noise?
Oh, I think so. Oh, mercy me.
It's dangerous.
This is very dangerous, Froggy.
It'll be okay.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous.
Oh, oh, oh.
Watch out! Where do you hurt?
Fine, be like that,
My
Zapper.
body.
We will expose you.
Next time you should listen to us, Froggy.
Right, a body can't get along with just legs, and I can't get along without all of you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Where'd that bird
I
come from?
bet Jesus is the head of the body, 'cause that's where the brains are.
He is, and the head is supposed to tell all the other parts of the body what to do.
And if we all pay attention to Jesus, our head, we all work together.
Remember that God loves you. That's what we're here to say.
Did anybody see this ending coming?
Only a rainbow helps celebrate this day.
Okay, now on to the poll.
Will you resign from ICE? Director Lyons, last year you said in Phoenix at the Border Security Expo that you wanted to see a deportation process that was like, quote, Amazon Prime, but with human beings. Mr. Lyons, how many times has Amazon Prime shot a mom 3 times in the face?
None, sir. But
Fuck
you're also
these people.
It's the square root of 0.
Fuck
That's
this
right.
man.
How many times has Amazon Prime shot a nurse 10 times in the back?
none.
How many times has Amazon Prime dragged a woman out of her car by her hair and then dragged her down the street?
None.
How many ICE agents have been fired for their conduct under your leadership?
Sir, I can get you that data. I'll get that
That's
back
a
to you.
fucking trick question.
I'm not going to speak about personnel actions, but I'll get you that data.
Can you tell us if at least, God, I hope at least one person has been fired for their conduct since these operations have begun? Are you telling us you can't even say one person's been fired?
Sir, I'm not going to talk about personnel actions, but we will get back to you.
But 2 people
You
have
are
been killed so
celebrated,
far. Is
Zephyr.
that right?
Yeah, the answer is 0.
A nurse named Preddy and a mom named Good. 2 people have been killed so far.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lyons, will you apologize to the family of Renee Good for being called a domestic terrorist
Zip.
by the president and his leadership?
No, sir.
Why not?
Sir, I welcome the opportunity to speak to the family in private, but I'm not going to comment on any active investigation.
Is she a domestic terrorist?
Sir, I'm not going to comment on the investigation, and the
Bruh.
president and Secretary Noem are elected officials. That's their right to their comments, but as career law enforcement, we won't speak to any.
Do you agree with their
Oh,
comments?
what's the title?
Sir, I'm not going to go ahead and talk about any ongoing investigation.
Will you apologize to the family of Alex Preddy for also being called a domestic terrorist?
Sir, again, I'm not going to speak to any ongoing investigation.
Mr. Lyons, your staying to lead ICE is a decision. You have a decorated career. You've served in the military.
Snatching up
You are what I
5-year-olds.
would
How does it
call
feel?
Otherwise employable. I think most people would agree this is not the only job that you can get. But since you've been on this job, women have been dragged by their hair
Grab a
through our
new window,
streets.
see what the
A
title
6-year-old
on
child
that
battling
is.
stage 4 cancer has been deported. And it turns out he was a U.S. citizen.
Black
are
people
running
should
through the
pay
fields
white people
where they work.
reparations?
People who've gone to the streets as allies have been shot and publicly executed. It's a decision to stay on at this point. And considering
You trying to make me
your
crash
honorable
out,
service
Vigi?
in the past and the dishonorable acts that those who have worked for you have conducted, and the disgraceful statements that the leadership above you have said, you now have a decision. Will you stand with the kids who you're supposed to protect, or will you side with the killers bringing terror to our streets? Mr. Lyons, will you
Yeah, that was
resign?
definitely a choice.
No, sir, I won't.
Of
Mr.
course you
Lyons.
won't. Coward. These cowards. But yeah, should black people pay white people reparations? White people already got reparations for slavery before black people ever even are going to get anything. The slave owners got reparations for losing their property. This is nonsense. Tell me it's Marte arguing that they should be. And I mean, honestly, they won't need to create a law. They need to fix the immigration system. Because, like, literally under Democrats, this was never happening. So, I don't know, man. So, where to go next? Let's get to this fun stuff.
Said that she would answer questions if she were granted clemency by the President Trump, and that she went on.
Also, Marte's arguing against it, thankfully.
Yeah, but he went on to expand that. The other thing is he pointed out a number of times that she has a habeas corpus petition pending for a new trial and release, and that's why she is not going to answer questions.
Does the committee have any plans to subpoena Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, given the revelations about his relationship?
We're going to try to get these 5 nailed down. We've got a lot of very important people we're trying to bring in to answer questions. We don't want to do anything to jeopardize the 5 that we have on the book. So we'll
yeah,
see
he
what
leaves the
happens
White
here,
House
and
alive because nobody's going to do anything.
We're interested in talking to anyone that might have any information.
I'd like to see him walk out clapped in irons, but
we know that there are multiple administration officials, including Howard Lutnick, Elon Musk, who served as the appointee for the Doge efforts in the White House. We know that the Secretary of Navy. We know that Steve Bannon. We know that there are more than 36 associates, family members, and individuals directly associated with Donald Trump named in those files. Now, there are now at least 9 or 10 other countries across the world that have opened investigations or forced their leaders to step down because of their mere association with Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, I
and the
missed a
United
link.
States government is engaged in an active cover-up of the largest sex trafficking scandal and influence peddling scandal in the history of the United States. And Donald Trump is right at the center of it. And the person who is living to provide the evidence, who knows what is going on, is trying to invoke the Fifth to buy her clemency.
Bruh, I was about to give him props. I was about to give Marte props. What up, Hammer? Good to see you, my dude. Here's some holy based for you.
A stay of execution. One backbencher told me they'd never seen the Prime Minister as passionate as he was at last night's meeting with his parliamentary party, adding that last night Keir Starmer was almost a completely different person. Back to you, Sophie. I wish he fucking was a completely different person. I mean, like literally somebody else running the country. You know, but in lieu of someone else, when do we get to see this new Keir Starmer, this completely different person? You know, what's he going to do? How's he going to woo us back? Sing us a tune, do a card trick, set light to his farts whilst whistling God Save the Queen, King? Because, you know, it's going to have to be pretty fucking spectacular to regain any kind of dignity. I mean, how can he regain any authority or respect or regain the ability to govern effectively again? I mean, he's never really been able to govern effectively, you know, almost from day one. Political malpractice at almost every turn.
And in case anybody didn't know already, Keir Starmer is facing a resignation over the Epstein files. Like literally every other country who has people in high places connected to this Epstein stuff are actually holding these people to task. We're the only ones not doing it.
End the chaos. That's what we were told. Change. An end to the revolving door of Whitehall and the constant U-turns. An end to incompetence. That's what we were told.
Except our Joe Biden isn't in the
and
files.
What did we get? Started right out the gate with free suits and freezing pensioners, and it soon went downhill from there. Labour's prison reform involved the accidental early release of sex offenders whose visas had run out. The homelessness minister, done for making her tenants homeless. The anti-corruption minister, done for corruption on a massive scale. The housing minister, done for underpaying tax on a house purchase. And of course, Peter Mandelson,
Prince Andrew is no longer Prince Andrew.
Returns again as our top diplomat, even though he was a known acquaintance of known paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, the only man in history who would have made Jimmy Savile jealous. And on the back of
saying, Hammer,
the
like,
fourth direction of communications in a year.
What has become of us?
As well as his second chief of staff after Sue Gray, who lasted all of 3 minutes.
No one can protect us from White Eyes.
But if McSweeney had to go because of the Mandelson appointment and Tim Allen had to go because of the Mandelson appointment, then it stands to reason that Starmer has to go because of the Mandelson appointment, right? If the person who advised you needs to go, then surely the numpty that took that advice has to go too. What is strange, though, right, is McSweeney is
I thought hitting the announcement was good enough, but I have to start putting it in the
Mandelson.
Discord.
Morgan McSweeney was
Apparently
born
I've learned
of
nothing
Peter
from Wick.
Mandelson. McSweeney was Mandelson's protege, and Keir Starmer was born of McSweeney. They are all cut from the same cloth. But, right, forgetting for one moment Mandelson telling state secrets to a paedophile whilst hanging out in his house whilst not wearing any trousers, that aside, Mandelson, and by proxy McSweeney, and by proxy Starmer, represents a political culture that has
How does the
dominated
UK have
Labour
more passion
for a
than we do for
generation,
this?
which has left it a husk, a Labour Party hollowed out. Mandelson oversaw a Labour that chose to completely detach itself from the lives of the people it was created to represent. Labour, the clue is in the title. A party that abandoned the working classes in favour of the middle classes, who abandoned economic equality for identity politics. A party that waxes lyrical about extreme poverty, but is far more comfortable wining and dining billionaires, lobbyists and corporate power. Eschewing
Sounds like
working
Democrats
men's
here,
clubs for private dinners. A party captured by a political class whoring themselves to donor networks.
Smart
a
play.
Labour Party that sidelined moral judgment and favoured managing optics and money markets rather than challenging the status quo or redistributing wealth and power. Labour has for some decades been millimetres away from completely losing its moral authority, and if it carries on the way it has been, it will soon have lost its right to govern. And they will have left the door to number 10 wide open to forces far more sinister, but presumably far less incompetent. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
In there for 2 hours. There's millions of files, right? And in a couple of
This
hours, we
right
found
here.
6 men whose names have been redacted, who are implicated in the way that the files are presented.
The point is that these 6 are just what we found in 2 hours of a review of the files that aren't redacted. The broader issue is why so many of the files they're getting are redacted in the first place. And until that becomes
we get these names.
The main things that
I
they're
am
sending
appreciating
to the
the fuck out of
career
Ro
attorneys to review, I don't think we're going to have full compliance with the law or get to the question that most Americans want to know. Who were the rich and powerful people who went to this island? Did they rape underage girls? Did they know that underage girls were being paraded around?
One of the
So right there, let's get to this, and we will watch this for a minute.
Congressman Ro Khanna on the Epstein files. He's one of the origins of the Epstein Transparency Act, along with Thomas Massey, who I also tried to get on the show. They are a Republican-Democrat duo who have been fighting to get the Epstein files publicized.
Voidzilla is a treasure right now.
You're one of the few people who's actually been allowed to see the unredacted Epstein files. What did you find?
Well, first, we found that they were protecting the identity of 6 men. I mean, Massey and I went for 2 hours.
Thank you, X-Fister.
And there were 6 men who were listed as co-conspirators, and their names were redacted. I went to the floor of the House of Representatives
Moon, don't be like
and
this.
I called out those 6 men by name.
Thank you
Salvatore
as well,
Navora,
Fister. Appreciate the
Zorab
support.
Mikoladze, Leopig Leonor, Nicola Caputa, Sultan
Ahmed bin Sulayem, CEO of Dubai Ports World, and billionaire businessman Leslie Wexner. We need courage in this country.
Do I need to run that back? Did we hear those names? I will run it back.
CEO of Dubai Ports World, Eleanor, Nicola Caputa, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, CEO of Dubai Ports World, and billionaire businessman Leslie Wexner. We need courage in this country to hold people accountable who have been accused of some of the most heinous crimes. I mean, men who either underage girls or went to Epstein's Island.
I have heard
Girls
this.
were being or paraded around.
One of the biggest parts of this story has been the meta story of the cover-up. Every time it seems like they're going to get the files out.
So keep in mind, like, every single president or big figure that's gone down, they don't go down for the act itself. They go down for the cover-up. Same with Nixon, the cover-up of the Watergate scandal. Same with Clinton, the cover-up of Monica Lewinsky. We got massive cover-up here too, and there's so many people involved in the cover-up. I can't wait to see it.
Out there, it's like opposite day. They redact names they shouldn't. They miss deadlines. They mischaracterize evidence. You know, just recently I saw an FBI memo that there were no cameras in bedrooms of Epstein's house. And then you look at the photos the FBI took, there's a camera in his bedroom. So I just want to understand this. To me, this looks like a cover-up, but who are they covering for? First of all, do you agree with that? Who do you think they're covering for, and if you think they're covering it up at all?
It's obviously a cover-up. It's probably one of the biggest cover-ups in American history. I mean, they're
it's
covering
up
up
there.
for rich and powerful people who visited this island where young girls were being not just the American elite, the global elite. This is shaking the British monarchy. It may topple the British government. It has the Norwegian princess now not being able to be a queen. I mean, it's had international reverberation.
Of course, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's one of my biggest problems with the story. Internationally, we're seeing some accountability, you know, however small. I have seen zero accountability in America. And so, look, while I appreciate the transparency, I was talking to friends, people who follow the show, and they said, where is the accountability? Are we going to see a single person in America besides Ghislaine Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein face justice?
Well, that's why I went to the floor.
We will
today
never
and
see
named
islands
these
the same
people.
way again,
I wanted
Toby.
those names
Unfortunately,
public.
they've ruined
if
islands
the Justice
for us.
Department isn't going to do their job, if the FBI isn't, then members of Congress
Especially
should take
Australia.
to the floor and start naming names, and that's why I did that. But we need investigations, and we need political accountability. I mean, how can you have Howard Lutnick, right, who lies to the American people? He says, oh, I never had anything to do with Epstein.
I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy.
Then it comes
He
out
looks like he was
that
all up in there.
Actually went to Epstein's island.
We had lunch on the island. That is true.
And then it comes out that he allegedly had a business with Epstein after Epstein was convicted of pet.
He literally said, I went to his house once, saw a massage table, and me and my wife were like, we're never coming back here again. Yet went into business with him. Like, crazy work.
It's an indictment on America that in other nations, literally their heads of states are falling if they just had email correspondence with Epstein. And here we've got someone like Lutnick still in government. We need accountability. We need prosecutions of people who actually showed up in the island and folks. And we need, by the way, the cover-up, Dan. What is the biggest cover-up? I just want to explain this simply. The FBI scrubbed these files in March before my law, and the most sensitive information are in the FBI files. That's where the survivors named the names of the people who abused them. They're in those FBI files. Donald Trump's FBI scrubbed that in March, and they sent the scrubbed files to Justice. And so Justice then did a second round.
And so from my conservative family, when the files didn't come out, I was told that it was the Democrats that scrubbed everything before Trump got back into office, and that's why we're never going to see anything. Funny how this is playing out, and I guarantee you they're never going to mention it again. They are tight-lipped. This is under the table now.
Round of redactions. But under my law, the Epstein Transparency Act that Massey and I passed, we need to have those FBI files unscrubbed. We need them unredacted. And that is where the information is. And the only reason I believe they're redacted is they're protecting very rich and powerful people in this country.
Well, look, I mean, part of the thing that I've appreciated about this push, it's a bipartisan push. Both left and right have gotten behind it, saying, hey, we gotta unredact this. We gotta see who's really in there. You bring up a great point. A lot of powerful people have lied about their association with Jeffrey Epstein. That's been one of the great revelations that has come out of it. But it's, you know, I criticized Howard Lutnick, you know, but we also have Stacey Plaskett. She's saying, you know, I wasn't a friend of him.
That are not your friends. Jeffrey Epstein had information, and I was going to get information. Having a real friendship with him is not something that I would deem to have.
And then we see text messages where she says, you know, I'm going to call you my friend. And he says, yeah, don't worry, like, we're friends. I mean, this is a problem that crosses party lines. And my worry is this. Look, right now there's a lot of push, bipartisan, but especially from Democrats. Look, we got to hold these people, you know, accountable. I agree with them. I agreed with the Republicans when they said they were going to hold them accountable last time. My problem is this. Next time, let's say you guys get in power. How can we trust that you guys are going to do what's necessary with the next DOJ? Because it doesn't seem like we're going to get the DOJ to do anything this time. I think we probably both agree on that. How can we trust the next DOJ to take the proper action and hold people accountable?
Well, I think you have to look at the record. You can trust people like Massey and me. We didn't politicize this. We said whoever is implicated needs to pay the consequences. There are Democratic donors like Bill Gates that are in the files. They need to testify. Keir Starmer is someone I knew. I met with him. He's someone who shares. I celebrated when he won. I have no sympathy for Mendelsohn or the Starmer government. I have no sympathy for Democratic donors or big tech folks, some of whom who have supported the party, who are in these files. I have said that President Clinton should testify, and he is.
I believe he's testifying right now. At least I saw a live up.
Is we haven't made this about Donald Trump or Bill Clinton or politics. We haven't made this Republican or Democrat. We have said wherever the facts go, that's where
this is beyond party lines at this point. To act like it's still a party line issue is insanity.
The Democratic donors, if it's going to take down Republicans, they'll take down Republicans. And why do you think other people haven't been willing to do it? Because we made some very powerful enemies. There are a lot of billionaires and people in this Epstein class who are against us. So I don't think you can trust a party per se, but I think you can trust people who have a track record of standing up for doing the right thing.
I want to go to the July 2025 systemic review the FBI claims it did. They made a bunch of surprising findings because, you know, later they were revealed to be, in my view, false. They say, one, this systemic review has no incriminating client list. Well, we see internal slide decks basically from the FBI where very prominent names such as Trump, Just Staley, Leon Black, Les Wexner, Bill Clinton, you know, a bunch of people have pretty shocking allegations against them.
Finally, Lex Wexner in the crosshairs.
There's no evidence that's going to predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Why not?
The systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. Sure, buddy. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties.
Not even investigate. That's kind of my
Lies.
You have hit the nail on the head. None of these rich and powerful people have even been asked under oath why they were on this island. What did they see? Who were the girls? Who was being raped? They've just escaped not just prosecution, they've even escaped investigation. And the Department of Justice could open the investigation tomorrow into these people. And people say, well, why are we obsessed about something that happened years ago? First of all, the survivors deserve justice. And it's very callous for people just to say, move on. But the second thing is, if we live in a society where people think the rich can just get away with things because of who they are, that the powerful can just get away with things because of who they are, that you don't have a democratic government.
The Epstein files, why it's so frustrating is it's exposing a justice system that has two different classes. For the weak, you have laws that bind but don't protect. For the powerful, you have laws that protect and do not bind. I mean, do you agree this is what we're seeing with the Epstein files?
Yes, it's two tiers of justice in America. That's why I came up with the term Epstein class. If you're part of this rich, powerful club, then you feel like you're above the law.
Speaking of
yeah, what are my reparations
at,
Zaffer?
You know, one of the claims by the Justice Department. I mean, they say there's no credible evidence Epstein is blackmailing individuals. You know, this is a huge problem because the FBI basically failed to get a bunch of CDs, hard drives that later were found removed from Epstein's properties. But, there's this email, basically, Epstein sent himself about Bill Gates, where he alleges that he facilitated trysts with Bill Gates. Bill Gates denies this, but it reads as straight up blackmail. It's like, you need to give me X millions of dollars. Otherwise, something's going to come out. Well, here's my problem, and this is what I'd love for people like Gates to be asked. He says he separated himself from Epstein, and then it turns out he sends a $2 million gift to MIT directed by Jeffrey Epstein. So if he had nothing to do with it, this wasn't blackmail, why is he sending a $2 million gift?
I mean, definitely income people are behind the curve.
Make sense? The gaslighting is what bothers me.
So here's the thing. We've known about this whole thing for a long time, like since at least the late 2000s. They've known about it since before that. They're the ones that brought this up and made it a point to have to reveal what's going on with the Epstein situation. Then once the dog caught the car, now all of a sudden we don't have anything. It's crazy. They literally brought it on themselves. And now that people are paying attention to it, there's nothing to see here. There's no list. He only trafficked to himself. This is a distraction from, all the good things Trump has done. Just wild.
You brought up Howard Lutnick. He says, I was so disgusted. And then he's found to be a business with the guy. Like, I just don't like, and I don't think anyone likes, being lied to, especially by people in power and people who are making decisions sort of for the rest of us. Bill Gates has enormous influence. The idea that he would be kind of, compromised by some of these things is very alarming.
It is alarming, and that's why he needs to come under oath and answer these questions. That's why there should be an investigation where he's asked by the Justice Department and Congress. And
don't worry, Fister, we're going to get there.
Supported a lot of Democrats, but we need fundamental accountability. It can't just be about Lutnick because he's in the Trump administration. It needs to be across the board, regardless of people's politics. And the issue in terms of what Epstein was and what he was doing, look, even my law doesn't allow for the release of classified information. You can't in Congress declassify things. That's the rule. But what we need is a president who actually appoints someone who has credibility in the military or in intelligence to look through the classified information and make a public report of what Epstein did and whether there was anything there. And that person has to have incredible credibility. Until then, there are going to be both rumors out there and conspiracy theories out there and legitimate questions. But that won't be answered just by my law. We need actually a commission that can look through the classified information.
I'm glad you brought this up. One of the questions is, why did the plea deal in 2008 happen? Why did it seem like every time there was going to be something happening, it seemed like some bigger players were reaching in? The CIA was FOIA'd by Jeffrey Epstein about Jeffrey Epstein, and they basically denied it. They said, hey, we can't confirm or deny any classified evidence that we may or may not have on you. The NSA basically did the same thing. This is a big problem was Epstein working for our government or foreign governments? This is something that's kind of speculated about a lot. There's a lot of emails with connections with powerful world leaders where Epstein seems to be in some type of official or unofficial capacity. I mean, what do you know, if anything, about this?
I genuinely don't have insight.
Moon. Absolutely. It's a two-tier justice system, and it's crazy. And we sit here and we get into arguments about ICE and how people broke the law by committing a misdemeanor and coming to the country illegally when they literally don't have a word to say about this. Like, literally, I don't care if they bust people stealing entire grocery carts full of food or breaking into something to make some money real quick when this kind of stuff gets to run rampant. Ain't no way.
Insight into his relationships, other than to say it's odd that he's got pictures at the CIA. It's odd that he has relationships with so many world leaders, that he's getting access from Gordon Brown's trade secretary about what purchases UK is going to make in the financial markets, that he has access to what India's prime minister is going to do in the United States or Israel, that he has access to an Israeli former prime minister, so much so that Netanyahu is making statements about the former prime minister's relationship with Epstein. I mean, how is this person as connected? Actually, that's one of the questions I want to ask President Clinton is, who is this guy? Or Trump, or in our classified information. I mean, why is this guy as connected as he is? People say, oh, he's just a collector of influential people. I know a lot of people who network.
Collector of influential people? What kind of...
I try to network. I don't know all these world leaders. You don't get there.
He didn't get invited to the Diddy
There's
parties.
Something else going on.
That's a great question. I have the same question. I mean, it's a very strange thing. I want to talk about Trump's relationship with Epstein for a second. There have been a lot of revelations from the files, a lot of weird behavior from the president, who normally is unbothered by anything press related. And yet we just had something come out very interesting. It seems to be a 2019 interview with the Palm Beach police chief, Michael Ryder. And he said that basically Trump blew the whistle on Epstein's activities.
Jeffrey Ash cash from Epstein.
Everyone has known he's
Gotta
been doing
catch
this,
'em all.
saying Maxwell was evil. This definitely surprised me.
I don't know, Moon.
I said to myself, why didn't they?
You got a point there.
If I was there, I'd put that out
Maybe
sooner.
there were some people saying, this has been an issue for a while.
But also, it seems like later he said he didn't know what was happening.
At the time, did you know why he was taking those young women?
No, I don't know really why.
So, what do you make of this? Were you surprised to see that? I was pretty shocked. I was like, what is this? I don't know what to make of it, really.
Yeah, I was surprised. I said on its face, it looks like a good thing that he was saying that Epstein should be held accountable. I wish more people have done that. I guess the questions for President Trump is why did it continue, and does he know other people who were abusing these girls, and what else does he know about Epstein's relationships? But on the face, that one call is it seemed like the right thing to do.
Yeah, it was weird. And, it also made me wonder, because in 2002, there's that birthday book, right? 2005 or 2006, it looks like he calls and says, hey, we all knew this was basically going down. So glad you're taking him down. I mean, the whole thing is very confusing, actually. I don't know if we're ever going to get the truth on that, maybe. But Ghislaine Maxwell is an interesting character, because he says, oh, she's evil. Well, he was friends with her for a very
Prince
long
Andrew,
time.
those
Now
photos do not look good. And then you got the one with
sure
Epstein on the island in the kitchen
said,
chasing girls
lawyer,
around.
I will clear
weird stuff.
Trump and Clinton if pardoned. I mean, is this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Well, I was in her deposition. She said, I want a pardon and I'll clear Clinton and Trump. But she also says, give me clemency and I'll name all the other people who were these young girls. I mean, come on. She's basically saying, okay, you want to know who these people are? Get me out of jail. And so it's the most corrupt thing I've seen. And this is why we know there are other powerful people, right? Because we know Maxwell is saying it, the documents are saying it, the survivors are saying it, and the only two people who are in jail, one is dead, Jeffrey Epstein, and the other one is Maxwell.
I mean, I want to put a finer point on that. Actually, Maxwell's life got better after the Transparency Act, which, I'm happy about the transparency, but just on stating on levels of fact, since 2025, the only person who's ever faced real accountability.
You get the black silhouette of some powerful person in Washington.
Arguably gotten worse. The DOJ failed to redact a bunch of stuff and expose them to the world. I mean, it just seems like this is my problem, and it leads me to the question of, we kind of where we started. It's great that we have transparency. I love the transparency. But where's the accountability, right?
Well, you're absolutely
Zero
right.
accountability.
This is the first time any survivor seem heard. This is the first time that we've actually had a government take action and release these files after decades. This is the first time that there's a conversation, at least, about elite accountability. Now, that conversation, as you pointed out, is going very differently in Britain and Norway and other countries. And the question is America going to pass the moral test? Are we just going to shrug and say, no, these people are too rich, we still want their money, we still like hanging out with them, they fund too many of the nonprofits, they fund too many of the universities and fund too many of the hospitals. And so, you know what, we're going to give them a time out. They need to go quiet for a year or two, and then they could rehabilitate themselves? Or are we actually going to have accountability in America where they are stripped of their position, where they are investigated, and where, when crimes have happened, they're prosecuted? And that's an open question, because so far we have not seen the accountability.
Well, also the FBI, you know, for as long as I've been sort of watching what they do, they're sort of the world police. I mean, unlike other kind of national agencies, they don't just concern themselves with what's happening in America.
And
They
people
got
that know
people
this subject, it's
internationally,
not
right?
about
It's
like
very clear
sexual
that Epstein's
gratification.
organization
It's almost
was an
entirely about
international
power.
operation. Even if you're trying to make the claim that he was trafficking to himself, there were other people assisting in that, right? We see in the files, Epstein was paying a guy named Daniel Syed, who's not dead yet, who to basically go scout for women, right? And those women later,
No one asking you to face something that's already been
later they were brought
defaced.
to America. So all this stuff is in the files. This
With
international
faces.
ring that was going on, whether or not you want to say he was trafficking to himself. I mean, do we
He
even
was
have
trafficking
the
to
gumption
himself.
target
Get out of
that?
here.
I hate to put it so crassly, but I feel like people just want a scalp. I mean, that feels bad to say. We want justice, but even symbolic justice would be better than this, right? Which is basically we released everything and we get nothing.
And that's why I went and gave the 6 names this morning on the floor of the
Oh,
House.
that
I mean,
was
those,
G shit.
Many of those names are.
I respect him for
foreigners,
that.
but they were listed as co-conspirators, and the question is, are we going to have justice?
And see, this is exactly what we need. Name the names. Let us know who they are so we can keep an eye on them. Maybe we won't get them to go to jail. Maybe we won't get them to go to trial because, I mean, most of this is probably past statute. But they should have to wear this as a badge for the rest of whatever career they end up being able to hold.
You know, one of the survivors told me that the person who her when she was 17 was happened in France, and that this person has left both France and the United States to evade the prosecution of the authorities. And so the question is just, are we going to care enough to get justice? Because you're right, it's not just justice of famous names who are caught up in all of this. There are a lot of people around the world who are caught up in these girls, and these women want justice. They don't want just a shaming of famous names. They want their accusers.
I can
held
watch
accountable.
that, or I can
Think about
watch
it. For 20,
the
30
video
years,
they
they've
were
seen
watching.
These people accumulate wealth, fly around, escape any accountability.
I know I'm
and
safe to
they
pull up
were-
Abba
They
and
were treated
preach.
as disposable, as that they didn't matter, as if they were just objects.
But there's still
for
more
the,
new stuff I can pull up
gratification of
because this
rich and
just
powerful men.
this
Perfectly
last
said.
drop
The final
has
question
had so
here.
much of a blow
What's
up.
the worst thing you've seen in these files?
I've seen some pretty sick things. I mean, just the grotesque nature of what
Well,
they did to.
Abba and Preach pulled from a video. Let me grab that one. Where basically they ran down all the people that have been in Epstein's orbit that have been on Joe Rogan, and the minimal amount of pushback that Joe Rogan has given any of them under the circumstances. So like we can definitely watch that. Like I've been meaning to get to the Epstein stuff and I don't run a panel anymore. So why not do it now in one swift go?
To young girls. I mean, it's much worse than
Let me
just
find
just.
that.
I mean, it's violent, it's ugly, it's sick, and that is just stomach churning. And then the scale of it. I don't think people understand how many of these young girls were caught up in this. And
Yeah, what am I going to do? Push
is
back?
at the
Dad,
core of it.
crazy.
That's why I said Epstein class, because a lot of these girls were working class.
He'll literally
A lot of
push
them
back
didn't
on
have
somebody
fathers.
that doesn't think a
They
monkey
were targeted. They were preyed
exists,
upon
but won't
by
push
rich
back
and
on
powerful
this.
people, and then they were told, don't call the police, nothing is going to happen. Don't call the FBI, nothing's going to happen. And the person who did call the FBI in 1996, she was called a liar. This is a moral reckoning for this country. It's an elite governing class that is immature, that is callow, that is reckless, that is arrogant, that is self-entitled, and that has done horrendous things. And the question is, are we just going to try to brush it aside and move on, as the president says, or are we actually going to have a moral reckoning, have a new moral vision, and be rooted in the values that built this country? And that is what's at stake.
And that's our interview. Thanks to Congressman Ro Khanna for coming on the
That
show.
was a
If you want to
great
support the
interview.
show, you can do so at Patreon. And if you want to see
I would
all the
vote for
files
Ro
that have been
Khanna.
released, even the ones that the DOJ
But I've
has
never had
been
anything bad to
removing
say,
from
really.
their own website, you can go to jmail.world. It's a website I partnered with to get the Jeffrey Epstein files to
But like this particular situation is something that like just people being decent human beings makes them look 20 times better than anything that's going on right now. By all means, we need more brown people in government.
Here's a deeper point, man.
So this is the video that Abba and Preach were watching, and then I have one more. Let me snatch that up real quick. I have so many DMs. My God. And then this one too, because it's funny.
Imagine founding a movement dedicated to hunting down a global.
We will get to that one later. So right here.
With Jeffrey Epstein. Under the law Congress passed,
Ted Lieu has
you were
been
allowed to
on a
redact
rampage.
Photos to protect the victims of Epstein's sex trafficking operation. You redacted the photos of this victim's face because you were following the congressional law. Is that correct?
Oh, love to see it, right, Testy?
I'm sorry, that we redacted the victim's
Because you were
face?
following the congressional law, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You have now established that please put the photos back up, that we are looking at a sex trafficking victim. Under the federal
He's better than me. I couldn't do this with a straight face. I'd be
not only is
clowning.
Jeffrey Epstein guilty, but anyone who patronizes Epstein's sex operation is also guilty of a crime. That's why I find it
Guilty.
absolutely
They're all
despicable
guilty.
that you sought to protect Epstein's clients, like former Prince Andrew. Last July, you closed the case on Epstein's abusers. The July 2025 memo from your Department of Justice stated, quote, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an
Getting
investigation
cooked.
against uncharged third parties." These two photos, please put the photos back up. These two
Keep those photos
staring
up.
you in the face are evidence of a crime and more than enough evidence to predicate an investigation against former Prince Andrew. So I ask you, Attorney General
This has no
Panamonti,
business being
why
this
did you
good.
shut down this investigation last July, and why have you not prosecuted former Prince Andrew?
I don't believe you asked Merrick Garland these questions when he was
Not
Attorney
yet.
General and set before
I agree with you.
you
I'm
twice.
reclaiming my
Did you?
time.
Never
I agree
mentioned
with
it.
you. I agree with you. During
Were
the
you not
Biden,
here
during
then?
the Biden administration, I called for people looking at Epstein files. Merrick Garland dropped the ball, as did Attorney General Bill Barr, as did Alex Acosta, a whole string of failures. But you are in charge. You have the power to change things, to hold these men accountable, and you're doing the opposite. You're protecting them. So I want to move on to another man.
Can I answer
Donald
that,
Trump.
though?
I want to move on to another
Hey.
question.
Answer your question about
No, I don't want you to
Answer
answer the question.
You're saying no. I love this.
I want to discuss another man, Donald Trump,
Get right.
who is all over the Epstein files, like former
1,000,000 times.
Like former Prince Andrew, Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm laughing. I'm dancing to the closing music. This music is going to be the soundtrack of their downfall, and I'm about
This
it.
is so ridiculous, and that they are
And then
trying
maybe
to
play Victoria's Secret.
deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has
She's
been the
insane.
most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files
I'm reclaiming my time.
be
I got your
released.
answer. You said there's no
President
evidence.
Trump asked
Mr. Chairman, please
that
stop the
he
clock. My time. Stop
sign
the clock.
legislation. This is
I'd like to reclaim my time.
Time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from
Cooked.
a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath. And
How
this is all
dare
videotaped.
you, sir.
You said there's no evidence of crime. I'm showing you. Here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop the limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell. So should the men who patronized his operation. And
That's
as we
pretty
sit
much
here
what you
today,
did,
there
Z.
are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
The gentleman has expired.
It's hard to keep up with this madness.
May I respond?
Yeah, I
No.
don't know how you respond. No one can.
I did not ask
I don't know how you respond.
I did not ask a crime in California. He does not want to talk about
I did not ask a
crime
question.
in his state.
She can't just
Madam
ad
Attorney
lib
General.
stuff. I did not ask a question.
Committee will be in order. The gentleman has yielded back his time. I think our next witness.
So cooked. Is this one?
Lawmakers given their first chance to view unredacted versions of the Jeffrey Epstein files that the Justice Department made public with large chunks blacked out, walking out with more questions.
What I saw that bothered me were the names of at least 6 men that have been redacted that are likely incriminated by their inclusion in these files.
They came out of there looking
Thomas
rough.
Massey then posting questions about 4 redacted names in one document. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche directly responding that the Justice Department had just unredacted all non-victim names in the file Massey referenced, and that the DOJ is committed to transparency. But lawmakers say there are still portions blacked out in what's supposed to be the unredacted files.
And that's because the documents produced to justice from the FBI, from the grand jury, was redacted when they got it.
As they push for full transparency,
They've
members of
been
the House
redacting.
Oversight Committee voicing frustration after Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell refused to answer any questions in their deposition.
She's looking way too healthy. All right. Yeah, that'll do for now. Let's get to the Joe Rogan.
Don't mean to
thing.
do this every time I'm on, but you have such a crazy power that if you're not careful, folks from deep, dark wells of perspective are gonna infiltrate your shit because people are gonna try to exploit you. That's the main thing, is people recognizing what you are, who have political agendas, will infiltrate your shit and then start blowing out their radioactivity into the world, right? That's a fear.
He's just stoned. It's fine.
All right,
It's
so
fine.
now that
He
people
wasn't
have
wrong.
had a few days to digest the millions of emails and documents linked to Jeffrey Epstein, it's now starting to appear that Joe Rogan's had a lot of people on his show that are now confirmed to have been closely linked to the predator and criminal himself, which has definitely left a lot of people scratching their heads. I mean, it's one thing to have maybe 1 or 2 guys linked to Epstein on his show, but when you realize that Joe Rogan's platformed,
I mean, guaranteed it'd be difficult for him not to have any,
at this
but
point, who were named in the files, sometimes thousands of different
he's
times,
got the full deck.
It all certainly raises more than a few questions. And it's not like anyone's accusing Joe Rogan of secretly going to Epstein's island or anything, but the very fact that he's had so many of these weirdos on his podcast
Peter
just proves how
Thiel's just-
accurate Duncan Trussell was in the opening clip there. Like all of these creepy billionaires flock to Joe's podcast because they feel a sense of safety and protection with Joe. Not only because he never challenges these guys on anything or even questions their links to Epstein, but also because he's so easily manipulated and will believe just about anything you say to him, especially if you have power over him. Peter Thiel, for example, who's a billionaire tech investor and co-founder of Palantir and PayPal, admitted to Joe Rogan that he met Jeffrey Epstein back in 2014.
It's exactly what Joe is, and I was
years
saying that
after
for a hot
Epstein was
minute.
initially arrested for all of the despicable and nasty stuff that he did to
He's
children.
been a useful idiot.
You know, I met Epstein a few times as well, and I think.
How'd you get introduced?
It was Reid Hoffman in Silicon Valley introduced us in 2014, but it was basically.
When you were introduced to him, how was he described to you?
He was described as one of the smartest tax people in the world.
Interesting.
And I probably was my moral weakness that
Well, how
I
could
think
you
Teal's
tell
shirt
back then
is
he'd never
creepy.
been arrested?
No, this was 2014. It was post arrest.
Oh, so his arrest was the first arrest, right?
Yeah,
Which was like 2000.
07, 08.
Okay.
Upon learning this,
But I'm not
though,
gonna say I'm not
Rogan
biased, I
doesn't
just wear
even
tank
think
tops.
twice before making excuses for Teal, saying that he knows a lot of people who were tricked by Epstein, instantly letting Teal off the hook.
But I thought he always had good judgment in people.
When the shit went down and Epstein gets arrested for the second time, were you like, oh, well, there you go?
I've thought about it. I thought a lot about it as a result. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Jesus Christ. Well, he tricked a lot of people. I know a lot of people that met that guy.
We believe you,
That
Joe.
right there is the very reason why so many of these elites just love going on Joe's podcast. Because Joe's best friends with whoever's across the table with him that day. And he was probably so starstruck by Teal and his connections that he never even thought to second guess the guy on his relationships with Jeffrey Epstein. Now that the files are out, though, it seems pretty clear that Teal was a lot closer to Epstein than he led Joe on to believe. I mean, there's a bunch of back and forth emails
he got
between
what he
them
wanted.
about having dinners together in various places.
I don't know
There's
how
even
far
one
it
where
went,
Teal
but he
suggests
definitely
meeting
did
him
so
on a quote-unquote
unabashedly.
island, which could very well be the island, if you know what I mean. There's, of course, nothing immediately acknowledging the crimes or anything, but I would venture to say that doing business with a convicted sex criminal for personal enrichment generally means you're a bad guy, not to mention being in regular communication with them. But of course, Rogan doesn't bother looking even an inch further into any of that, which is why a lot of people criticize Joe as an interviewer. Like the guy can't shut up about Epstein and all the stuff surrounding him, but as soon as he has someone on the show that's literally sat down and had one-on-one conversations with the guy, Joe immediately brushes over it and then switches the topic.
I know a lot of people that met that guy. He got a lot of celebrities to come to his house for parties and things.
Well, I think I think a lot of it was this strange commentary on, I know there was some secret club, secret society you could be part of.
Right, of
And
course.
Again, it wasn't explicit, but that was the vague vibe of the whole thing.
People love those stupid things. They love like exclusive clubs that very few people. Look at the fucking Soho House. Like, look at that stupid thing. I mean, you just go to a place that you have to be a member to go to, and everybody wants to be a member. Oh my God, gotta get it. And then you get like the Malibu Soho House. It's different from the other ones. You have to have membership only there.
And you see, Peter Thiel is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to JRE guests that have been involved with Epstein. Of course, there are the big ones like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, but it actually goes way deeper than that. Like, believe it or not, Joe's literally platformed Epstein's personal chef, Adam
Why
Perrin-Lane,
would he have
who
his
worked for
chef
Epstein
on?
for 4 years straight back in the late 90s, flying with him on his private jet to cook for him at Epstein's various different properties, including the infamous Epstein Island. And this was all public information prior to that podcast. So it was pretty strange that Joe didn't bring that up once. There was even an article written about it. And of course, there could have been some kind of agreement that Joe signed to not mention it with him during the podcast, but nonetheless, it's all very fishy.
What's happening, brother? How are you?
Good to be here.
Good to
What's
have you.
happening?
I have enjoyed your restaurant many times. This is my favorite steak restaurant in all of Los Angeles.
Thank you.
It's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you in here, because this is a really crazy time for restaurants. And I mean, that's basically
Damn, Moon.
that's the gist of it. This is a crazy time. I mean,
It's bananas. It's absolutely crazy.
And then there's Dr. Peter Attia, who was apparently Epstein's private doctor and shared thousands of emails with Jeffrey, which of course are extremely twisted. But I'll touch on that later more in the video. Just know that as of right now, there are about 9 or 10 people who went on Joe's show that are named in the files, which is just a mind-boggling number of people. As weird as that may be, though, there's not really one single answer to it that people can agree on. You know, some people theorize that Joe's been bought out and paid for by the upper crust of society, or even the CIA.
Or at least DraftKings.
And others think that it's merely a coincidence. No matter what you choose to believe in, though, the one thing that's true here is that Joe gives the softest, most patty patty cake style of interviews to a select group of people, and a lot of those people were named in the Epstein list. And Donald Trump's a great example of this. Like during that Donald Trump interview, which now has
Wanting to
over
give Trump an interview,
61
not wanting
million
to give
views on
Kamala.
YouTube alone, Joe Rogan never
Not even
even
5
brought up
minutes.
Epstein or the suspiciousness surrounding Epstein's death, which is a topic that Joe's talked about on hundreds of other episodes before this one. He basically just gave Trump the easiest interview of his life.
One of the beautiful things about you is that you freeball. Like you get out and you do these huge events, and you're just talking and you're making. We've highlighted you on the show many times when you did this Biden impression where he's walking around, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's funny. It's stand up. It's funny stuff. But it's like you and you were making fun of Elon one time. You were doing an Elon impression. It's great. You have like comedic instincts. Like when you said to Hillary, "You'd be in
He is a
jail."
clown.
Like that's great timing. And I think
You know, it's funny. You need at least the attitude of a comedian when you're doing this business. This is a very
Yes.
dangerous business. First of all, it's a very tough business. When
it's the most dangerous
yeah, it's the
business.
most, well, for a job.
Yes.
So the softball interview basically greenlit all of the cronies to go on Joe's show, as Joe's spine basically disappears whenever someone in the Trump administration appears on the show. Like a couple of short months after that Trump podcast, Joe had Kash Patel on, where he let Kash basically lie to his face and his
Kash is
millions
probably
of
crying in his
listeners about
bathtub right
everything
now.
having to do with the Epstein files and Epstein's suspicious death.
Elon and Trump seem to be in a bit of a spat, Joe. You want to check the tweet that Elon just put out a little bit ago?
Not
Time to
orange
drop
enough,
the really
see,
big
not
bomb.
orange enough.
Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day. Jesus Christ.
I'm not participating in any of that conversation
What is
between
he?
Elon
Have a
and Trump.
nice
Elon
day,
wasn't lying.
GGD.
It's the most obvious industry
forth
plant
about
ever.
different things.
Yeah.
How does he know? Does he know that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files? Or does he have access to the Epstein files?
I don't know how he would, but I'm just staying out of the Trump Elon thing. That's way outside
What
my
the
lane.
fuck are they doing?
I know my lane, and that ain't it.
I just don't.
What, you're not claiming casualty?
I mean, what did you think before you got in office? Did you think that Epstein was murdered?
No.
No suspicion at all of it?
There's just no way that you could have run an op and had people go into that cell and not have any video of it and not have any people come out and say, hey, yeah, I saw that guy. He shouldn't have been there, the guard or this guy. There's just no access points into places like this in the detention center he was in, which I've been in.
And no, Kash Patel was not named in the files, but he's directly responsible for the delay of their release. And he literally lied under oath about their existence late last year, which is now making millions of people online call for his arrest.
Who, if anyone,
He was
did
born in
Epstein
Texas.
traffic these young women
You gonna
to
put that on
besides
Texas?
Himself.
There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
So Kash Patel is Trump's personal shoe shiner, and of course he manipulated Joe into believing everything he said about the Epstein files and Epstein's death. And just to be clear, Patel isn't in the files, but this just shows you why a bunch of these fishy, mega-rich guys feel safe going on to Joe's podcast.
What a freaking
One guest
goofball.
that did entertain Joe's theories around Jeffrey Epstein's death, though, was none other than Barry Weiss, who is a New York Times opinion writer turned independent commentator and is married to a woman who was just named in the Epstein files, Nellie Bowles, who actually went back and forth with Epstein and seemingly met up with him a bunch of times accompanied by Barry Weiss. And so when Joe brings up Epstein's death, she seems to entertain the conspiracy theory a little, but then quickly makes it seem not even that important. She even admits to knowing a bunch of people who hung out with Epstein when he was alive, saying that everyone knew about his crimes and didn't do anything about it, which of course just flies right over Joe's shiny
Well, if we didn't, now
bald
we do.
head.
Can we just agree that he was murdered?
I
If you
think
had,
that he was murdered.
if you had all your chips on the table,
Yes.
like Barry, you got to go all in. What are you gonna do?
There are too many coincidences
Yeah.
to make it plausible that Jeffrey Epstein.
No one knows.
No one knows
Well,
that.
No,
But what
we
people
don't know.
knew, no, meaning.
Someone must
But
know.
what I was going to say is, like, you know, I've talked to enough people that knew him, met him, went to parties at his house, and said, like, everyone knew this about him. It was like a Harvey Weinstein thing.
Right.
You know, in the sense of the young women.
It's earned.
You know.
Yeah.
or in the sense that everyone knew about Bill Cosby that came into contact with him. Like, there were things that were just agreed to never speak about. You know, it's like, it's just absolutely sick. I was when the story broke about him hanging himself, I was obsessed for like a few days, but then I had to move on to other things. Like, the world is a big place.
That's what
Jews are getting beaten in the streets.
You know,
yeah, but
let's
it's
just
also
move
like
on.
there actually are things that are more important to me than the story of
People are
Jeffrey Epstein.
disgusting. Right.
And I hope that there's some investigative journalist digging into the truth of what happened there.
But to be fair to Joe here, he honestly seems like he didn't know Barry's connection to Epstein during this podcast from 2020.
I mean, I knew Paul
Now
was
that
a
she's
furry,
named in the
but
files as her wife's quote-unquote
that's
babe
brutal.
by Epstein, and now that she just hired Dr. Peter Attia at CBS, who is deeply affiliated with Epstein, the whole thing just looks pretty bad for Joseph Rogan. And you already know he's terrified of addressing any of it. Speaking of Peter Attia, though, who's actually one of Joe's more frequent guests that seems to be more close to Joe than usual, he was also listed in the Epstein files, and it appears that he's way more screwed than even someone like Peter Thiel, as he's on record emailing Epstein that he, quote-unquote, can't tell anyone what Epstein does, along with saying that eating pussy is low carb, which is absolutely horrendous given the nature of Epstein's crimes. So Peter Attia probably lost his whole career due to the Epstein files.
Notice the
especially
caliber
now
of
that he's
people
come
we're
out
dealing with
publicly
here.
and stated that he's ashamed of his affiliation with Epstein. Straight up just admitting to being the guy's good pal.
Thank you,
And being that he's
Fister.
actually sort of close to Joe Rogan, it just makes you wonder how Rogan will address it.
Grab
If
this
he
up.
will
Let's check this out real quick. Attorney Consumer Assistance Program Office of Disciplinary Counsel, the Florida Bar. Okay, I'll run this after. I'll read it right after this.
at all. I mean, Joe Rogan must be shitting his pants right now
Thank
with
you,
how
I
many friends of
appreciate
the
it.
podcast are being exposed before his very eyes. And remember, these are the files that Trump's Department of Justice were comfortable with making public. So there's certainly millions and millions of more incriminating things to be released. Like, this is much deeper than you think. Of course, a bunch of the Joe Rogan fanboys are rushing to his defense right now, though, saying that Joe Rogan's had more than 1,200 different guests on his platform and that people are just cherry-picking. And that Joe would have guys like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Peter Thiel on, regardless of whether they were affiliated with Epstein or not. Which might be true, given that they're some of the biggest names in the world, but the fact that Jeffrey Epstein himself is now on record trying to get in contact with Joe Rogan just shows you how safe Jeffrey and all his goons felt in Joe Rogan's presence. And this info was pulled from emails between Epstein and a man by the name of Lawrence Krauss, who, after going on JRE in 2017, emailed Rogan about the opportunity to get in contact with Jeffrey, which apparently Rogan was timid about.
Of
Regardless,
course, Evan.
though,
How's it
they've got to
going?
feel like Rogan's on their side or something like that.
We're
Right?
flaming
And
Joe
they
Rogan
must
right
feel
now.
a sense of security around the man, given that he never brings up anything involving Epstein's crimes around the associates that he interviews. For instance,
Bunch of
during one of the many
ghouls.
podcast episodes Joe Rogan shot with Elon Musk, Musk conveniently listed everyone he thought was going to be on it and left himself right off of it. Which, now knowing that he apparently desperately tried to get on Epstein's island and was found to be too dorky to make the list, just seems super pathetic.
It's so obvious.
Yes, like known Epstein clients who are obviously extremely powerful.
Lawrence
they're
Krauss
powerful
is
politically
weirder.
and very wealthy. Are Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, and Reid Hoffman.
I
And
blame
some others
Dawkins
too,
for
but those
that.
three. So, why was Reid Hoffman so intent on destroying Trump?
Yeah, how do you put someone in jail and you don't even name the clients? That sounds kind of insane.
I think, yes.
Yeah, Elon's Weasley ass talking about, oh, I would never go. I was invited once and I refused. And then it comes up, hey, buddy, when you going to be there? I need to, hit up this island. I need a really wild party. He lies about everything, even playing Path of Exile.
It would. Yes,
It's
because
just stunning that they've been able to hold it back for so long. It's really kind of amazing.
Yes.
Like when people say that people can't keep secrets, what the fuck are you talking about? Look at this.
What game is that?
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of these things are not like it's common knowledge, but we don't actually have the proof.
Right.
So the proof is there. I mean, there's lots of videos.
So yeah, I really wonder if Joe will ever talk about Elon being in the files.
Eugenics?
Based
Yeah,
off how
never heard of
Elon's
it.
tweeting like a maniac about it and defending himself way
But I did
too
hear
much on his own
Clavicular went to
info,
jail.
he'll probably go on to JRE soon here to clear the air, which will definitely make for another video for this channel since it will indeed be
I'll check
super
it out.
awkward. Aside from that, though, when you step back and look at the whole picture here and consider the sheer number of people involved with Epstein that went on to Joe Rogan, something strange seems to be going on that a lot of people think is much deeper than just a coincidence. Like, Rogan's built his entire brand on being the guy who asks
actually sounds like
questions,
fun.
who doesn't trust institutions, and who's skeptical of power,
check
and who
my
loves
Steam
to
right now for
entertain
that.
conspiracies, especially when they involve Jeffrey Epstein. Yet, when that exact world of power, money, and influence
26
sits across from
beans.
him in person, his skepticism seems to just disappear. And it's not like Joe gives this type of treatment to just about everyone, you know? I mean, I'm sure you all remember how he screamed at that primatologist who called into the show
looks like
years
fun.
ago, who infuriated Joe by simply disagreeing with him about the
since
existence
it's
of
on
a
sale,
fake
I may
cryptid
just grab it.
species of chimpanzee, the Bondo ape, which is just wild if you haven't seen that already.
Allison from Florida is going to challenge you. Allison, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a primatologist. There's no such thing as a Bondo ape.
You're a fucking idiot. Go online and look it up. You're a what? What do you do? It's a new discovery. You're a primatologist? Well, look it up. You're not current. Pay attention. Go online and look it up.
Yeah, this is student.
Yeah, you've learned some shit from college. When did you graduate?
I have a PhD from
When
2000.
did you graduate? When?
From 2000.
Welcome back, Ike.
Yeah, when was the last time you got online and researched primates?
Yeah, I missed your
Have you
stream
ever
for the
looked
last
at any of the
couple
new
days.
discoveries? Have you looked at any of Carl Amon's work?
Yeah, I've been.
What are you laughing at? Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? I'll tell you why you're laughing, because you don't have a point. So you're trying to, oh, you're ridiculous. I have a PhD. Meanwhile, there's all sorts
What
of
happened to this
photographs
Joe
of
Rogan?
this
Has he been
primate,
replaced?
this gigantic chimpanzee. Not only that, it's on National Geographic, stupid. NationalGeographic.com. CNN.com, stupid. No. There's bones, there's tissue samples, there's hair, there's fecal matter, there's all sorts of different things. Now, they've
Jeez,
mapped
Joe.
the DNA of this animal
Chill out,
already.
bro.
Oh, please.
What do you mean, oh, please, stupid? You haven't paid attention to it at all. These are legitimate scientists and primatologists that are in the Congo studying this thing. And you don't know. Yet you're calling up. You've done zero research on this. You haven't looked into it at all. You're telling me we know all the animals that are in the world? Are you telling me we know all the animals in this gigantic, several thousand-mile-long, intense rainforest?
So I just wonder where that spark was when Joe did dozens of podcasts with a bunch of Jeffrey Epstein's friends and associates. But no matter which camp you're in, whether you think Rogan's compromised and bought out
That's what
by
I'm
the
saying.
CIA,
Why can't they
or
just get
straight up
along?
a famous guy that has a bunch of billionaires on his podcast, what the files truly expose
Joe Rogan is
the
an
limits
interesting
of Rogan's
primate.
so-called journalistic curiosity.
And welcome to
as
the
more
chat.
names, emails, and connections continue to surface, it's going to become harder and harder for Rogan to keep pretending and beating around the bush. Like, he can't just call his critics mentally ill losers like he did with Bert Kreischer anymore.
Instead of,
Rainforest
like, saying, "Oh,
big,
that
yeah,
guy gets hit by a
exactly.
bus, fuck him." All these slobs that are on Twitter and that are talking shit about comedians and are angry about comedians, they have one thing in
Well,
common.
that's why he's so sure,
They're
Ike.
almost all
He knows because that's where he
failures.
came from.
They're either failures or they're extremely mediocre.
Yeah.
They're in the middle of like mediocrity. No one's got them as their favorite comedian. No one's got them as their favorite podcaster. No one's got them as anything. They just don't do
Rogan
that
is a
well.
pretty
So what do they
trash
do? They're
comedian.
attacking people. And the most anxiety-ridden, fucked up, mentally ill people I know are these lazy slobs that are online all day complaining about people.
So yeah, pretty crazy stuff, and honestly, by the time this video comes out, I bet there will be way more JRE guests named in the files that I still haven't covered yet. So subscribe if you
We
want to
still
see the
got
part
more to
2,
go.
and as always, thanks so much for watching.
Like, seriously, when he ended up on the Man Show, I was just really sad. It was the end of it. And it wasn't a great show to begin with, but he made it massively worse. Let's see what we got. It was this one, but I was going to read this first as soon as I finish this game. So, Attorney Consumer Assistance Program Office, the Disciplinary Council of Florida. It's Florida, so we already knew it was bad. barely funnier than Brendan Schaub. That is scathing. Oh, well, I appreciate money. We are writing to express our concerns regarding the professional conduct of Attorney General Pamela Jo Bondi. Based on recent events and publicly... Is this new? May 1st. This is from May of last year. Let me end this game real quick. This dude is done. Boop. That's why he was stalling. 3 life, 3 life. Good game. It's something about Joe's, man. Something about Joe's. But she's a Pamela Joe. I did not need to know that, but it makes so much more sense now. Based on recent events and publicly available information, we believe there are numerous and substantial grounds to warrant an investigation into whether Attorney General Bondi engaged in misconduct that violates provisions of the Florida Rules of Professional Conduct. Ooh. As lawmakers and attorneys, we know how important the rule of law and ethical conduct are in carrying out the law, particularly for someone who leads the most important legal body in the country, the Department of Justice. We are deeply troubled by reports that General Bondi may have acted improperly and unethically. Given that 2 of the core functions of the Florida Bar are to ensure, and then in quotes, ensure the highest standard of legal professionalism in Florida, that's a low bar. I mean, when the bar is that low, how do you fail? And protect the public by prosecuting unethical attorneys and preventing the unlicensed practice of law. Because, I mean, they literally let Jeff Epstein go. They gave him a sweetheart deal where he could just come sleep in the jail if he felt like it, go off and do whatever he was going to do the next day. So, you know, the expectations of Florida have not been extremely high. We strongly believe the Florida Bar should be aware of General Bondi's potential misconduct in case this misconduct warrants an investigation and appropriate sanctions, including up to disbarment, please. The following details outline the basis for the inquiry. I will check my Steam right now. Give me an alerts. I have no alerts. Maybe I have to refresh it. And also, thank you, Evan. I appreciate it, and I appreciate Christmas. See, we keep it merry around here. So, even as Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi remains subject to Florida rules of professional conduct. She passed the bar in Florida. I love it. I love it. Professional conduct in her capacity as attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Florida. The matter described below represents serious breaches of professional ethics that warrant investigation and potentially disciplinary action. Oh, this is going to get good. Approval of unethical and illegal bribery arrangement involving New York Mayor Eric Adams. That's a good mug. I want that around the office. According to public reports, Attorney General Bondi was involved in approving an arrangement that potentially appears to be a quid pro quo agreement that violates federal law and multiple ethical rules. And the Eric Adams thing was pretty disgusting. Like, they were basically holding that dude hostage. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York had investigated and charged Mayor Eric Adams with public corruption offenses. Following the election, Mayor Adams reportedly began lobbying President-elect Donald Trump to support him. After President Trump took office, Adams' attorneys proposed that in exchange for Adams supporting the president's plan to arrest and deport undocumented immigrants in New York City, the Department of Justice would drop the pending charges against him. So, as we got this ICE stuff going on, like literally they were extorting him so they could do the same thing in New York. Why couldn't they just do it anyway without this stupid thing? Acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove, apparently with the approval of Attorney General Bondi, directed the U.S. Attorney's Office to dismiss the charges without prejudice, a maneuver that would allow the DOJ to reinstate charges if Mayor Adams failed to fulfill his part of the arrangement. Then acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Danielle Sassoon, refused to comply with this directive and sent a letter to Attorney General Bondi describing the improper quid pro quo arrangement. Sassoon requested that Bondi overrule Bove or accept Sassoon's resignation. Oh, this is savage. With what appears to be Attorney General Bondi's authorization, Bove accepted Sassoon's resignation, threatened her and other prosecutors with retaliatory investigations, and pressured prosecutors in Washington to file a motion to dismiss the charges against Mayor Adams. In court proceedings, Bove allegedly misrepresented to the judge that there was no quid pro quo arrangement, apparently with Attorney General Bondi's knowledge and approval. Cheese-umpies. This alleged conduct would violate several Florida rules of professional conduct, including assisting a client in conduct the lawyer knows is criminal or fraudulent, candor toward the tribunal, engaging in conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, and or misrepresentation, engaging in conduct that is prejudicial to the administration of office. The quid pro quo arrangement that Attorney General Bondi allegedly authorized and approved with Mayor Adams would potentially constitute a criminal violation of 18 U.S.C. 666. Ooh, it's evil. Which prohibits providing a thing of value in return for an agreement to take official acts. My goodness. Oversight of unlawful conduct in JGG versus Trump. Attorney General Bondi has also appeared to apparently approve legally questionable positions and tactics in a case involving the deportation of Venezuelan nationals. Whew. In JGG v. Trump, the Department of Justice has taken the position that the Alien Enemies Act allows the government to deport individuals based solely on the president's determination, without any legal due process, that they are part of an invasion or predatory incursion by a foreign nation or government. When Chief Judge James Boasberg of the U.S. District Court of the District of Columbia scheduled a hearing on temporary restraining order to prevent these deportations, the government apparently expedited the deportation plans, placing some individuals on flights to El Salvador just as the hearing was beginning. We remember that. They just snatched them up and absconded. It was wild. Chief Judge Boasberg issued an order from the bench prohibiting the government from deporting any of the plaintiffs until he had ruled further on the case, and ordered return of any individuals who were already on departing flights. Despite this order, several planes reportedly continued to El Salvador, where the men were imprisoned. The Department of Justice, presumably with Attorney General Bondi's authorization, has taken the legally dubious position that the court lacks authority to review the president's decision under the Alien Enemies Act, and that the plaintiffs are not entitled to due process. Jeez. The department has also argued that it was not required to comply with the judge's oral order, another legally questionable position. Most troublingly, the department refused to comply with Judge Boasberg's demand for information about the flights when departed. He's like, we're not even going to tell you what the planes were, which would allow the court to determine whether the government knowingly violated the order. Plausible deniability. Running it. Evidence has reportedly emerged that at least some of the deported individuals had no connection to the Tren de Aragua gang that was the stated basis for the deportation. Attorney General Bondi is believed to be aware of this fact, but has not directed any corrective action. This alleged conduct would violate several Florida rules of professional conduct, including bringing or defending a proceeding or asserting or controverting an issue without a basis in law and fact, making a false statement of fact or law to a tribunal, knowingly disobeying an obligation under the rules of tribunal, engaging in conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation, engaging in conduct that is prejudicial to the administration of justice. Solid. See, this is making me have some respect for Florida. Why? Trump is ruining me. Attorney General Bondi has made several public statements that appear designed to undermine the judiciary and potentially endanger federal and state judges. Bondi publicly accused Chief Judge Boasberg, the Chief Judge of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, of trying to protect terrorists who invade. This sounds like that panel I was on. So you're trying to protect terrorists, huh? Who invaded our country over American citizens. A statement she knew or should have known to be false. Chief Judge Boasberg has been properly fulfilling his judicial role by seeking to maintain the status quo while determining whether the government's actions have a lawful basis, whether the plaintiffs have received due process. There is no evidence today that the plaintiffs are terrorists, and Attorney General Bondi's characterization of Judge Boasberg's actions is a gross misrepresentation of judicial conduct. Yeah, exactly, Zephyr. Conspiracy hobos are running the DOJ and DHS. They are no better than a freaking after panel. It's amazing. Following the arrest of Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan for allegedly obstructing an immigrant arrest, Attorney General Bondi described specific judges as deranged and attempted to characterize a wider swatch of the federal judiciary as thinking that they are beyond and above the law. She also stated that we are going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you, which seems intended to impose a chilling effect on the separation of powers and judicial independence. These statements are particularly concerning given the current climate of heightened threats against judges. And by the way, we're getting to that soon, Zephyr. That's the next video. Including Judge Boasberg, Attorney General Bondi must be aware that such inflammatory rhetoric could intensify these threats. Like they care! This conduct appears to violate several Florida rules of professional conduct, including seeking to influence a judge by means prohibited by law, making extrajudicial statements likely to prejudice an adjudicative proceeding, engaging in conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, and misrepresentation. Damn, that's like 3 counts. Engaging in conduct that is prejudicial to the administration of office. The cumulative conduct described above represents potentially serious violations of Attorney General Bondi's ethical obligations as an attorney. As the highest ranking law enforcement officer in the United States, Attorney General Bondi's adherence to the rules of professional conduct is of paramount importance to maintaining the integrity of our justice system and public confidence in the rule of law. I don't think we have that anymore, or at least most of us don't. We believe it is incumbent on the Florida Bar to do its part to uphold the rule of law and integrity among the attorneys it oversees, no matter how powerful or well-connected those attorneys may be. We respectfully request that the Attorney Consumer Assistance Program's Office of Disciplinary Counsel keep us informed of any actions taken, including if the office initiates and conducts an official investigation into these matters, chooses to impose any and all appropriate disciplinary actions as warranted by the evidence. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. At least we know they are consistent in their views on power. It's not like they spent 8 years complaining about another president's overreach. Bruh. My goodness. So here's the conspiracy.
Global satanic pedophile cabal.
It's the devil, okay?
You spend years decoding secret messages, alienating your family, and convinced that you were the digital soldier in a holy war against the elites.
We're under attack!
Now, imagine discovering that the very digital ground that you stood on, the forum where your movement was born, was relaunched on the exact same day its founder got a ride home from the face of that cabal. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a reality.
Bruh, that's why I was saying this was from last March. What has happened between now and then? Like, she's literally perjuring herself in, under oath. So, like, she needs to be disbarred for sure.
For the Anons of 4chan.
Thank you for that, X-Fister. That
Today
put a
we
smile
need
on
to
my
pass the
face. It was a
sensational
beautiful
headlines that
letter.
dissect a specific uncomfortable intersection, technology, extremism, and irony. Recently released documents from the Justice Department regarding Jeffrey Epstein have revealed a connection that, quite frankly, sounds like it was written for a bad movie script. According to reports from The Spectator, 4chan founder Christopher Poole, known online as Moot, met with Jeffrey Epstein in October of 2011. But it gets more specific. An email exchange reveals Epstein liked Mimot, his misspelling of Moot, I guess, and explicitly stated that he, quote, unquote, drove him home. Now, Tech founders meeting with wealthy financiers isn't exactly news. That happens every day in Silicon Valley. But here's the sociological kicker. On the very day of his first known audience with Epstein, Poole made the executive decision to relaunch the poll board, politically incorrect. For those uninitiated in the dark corners of the internet, /poll is the board that would eventually birth QAnon, the very conspiracy theory that claimed to be fighting people like Epstein. Now, is this just a cosmic coincidence? Or is it the ultimate proof that the modern far-right movement is built on a foundation of cognitive dissonance? So let's start with the material evidence. The files include an email exchange between Epstein and a man named Boris.
I did not, Ike.
In this exchange, referring to Poole, Epstein writes that he liked Mima a lot. He confirms the personal nature of the interaction by adding that he gave the tech founder a ride home, as I mentioned before. Now, we got to be precise here.
There it is, Moon. That's what I
Little
was
known
waiting
about
for.
What they actually talked about. We don't know if they talked about algorithms, finance, or even the weather. What we do know is the proximity. You have the founder of the internet's most chaotic anonymous forum sitting in a car with a man who would later become the symbol of elite corruption. And this is where the timeline becomes a weapon against the narrative. If you talk to anyone deep in the QAnon rabbit hole, for one, I'm sorry, but they will tell you that they are, we're the ones who are actually awake. Not woke, but awake. Oh, see, we're the ones who see the strings, you know? Yet, turns out their digital home base, the poll message board, was effectively recommissioned in the shadow of this meeting. It raises a question about the origins of the platforms that we use. We often view these spaces as neutral public squares, or in the case of 4chan, as a bastion of so-called absolute free speech. But in reality, they are products of specific decisions made by specific people in specific rooms, sometimes, apparently, rooms occupied by Jeffrey Epstein. To understand the gravity of this, we have to look at what /poll was intended to be versus what it became. When Poole relaunched Poll back in October of 2011, the prevailing theory was that it would serve as a containment board. The idea is simple. You have a lot of users posting extremist, racist, or just generally unhinged content on your video game and anime boards. Bad for business. Scares away the advertisers, what few they had left. So you create a designated sandbox for the toxicity. You say, go play over there. But this ignores the systemic reality of how radicalization works. You don't contain extremism by giving it a clubhouse. You incubate it. By concentrating these voices in a single echo chamber, you stop isolating them and start organizing them. As researcher Victor Merrick Hagen noted,
So basically what they did was they tried to sequester off a room and put all the crazies in one room so they could run a reasonable server for everybody else to enjoy, only for the loony bin to become the actual main attraction.
In his 2024 work, this containment strategy failed spectacularly. Instead of keeping the rest of the site clean, /poll became the forum's most active place. It became the engine. Hagen argues that 4chan has become a home for far-right posts and is, quote-unquote, what holds this movement together. It systematically portrays specific groups, Jewish people, immigrants, women.
Thank you, Ike. I will pause this and
this
we
is
will
an
get to
accidental.
that.
Our witness who somehow is a lawyer but does not understand how it works with witnesses. I'm not really sure what law school she went to and what all kind of cases she tried, but typically when you come into a space and somebody's a witness, then they sit there and they answer questions instead of asking questions. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting journalists than you are prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. In fact, your boss, the President of the United States, stated that this administration, quote, took the freedom of speech away.
Get 'em.
And at your direction, DOJ has arrested Don Lemon and Georgia Ford. I
Get
completely
'em.
don't get how it is that you're sitting at the top of DOJ because you don't seem to be good at your job. But let's circle back to you protecting pedophiles and creeps, because I want to talk about the president and his possible involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I don't know what the president might have done with Jeffrey Epstein, but unlike this administration, I believe that facts matter. So let's talk about the facts. Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. At least 5,000 files contains more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. For example, according to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump who spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her. Here's another example. This shows notes from FBI investigators that describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, "This is a good one." Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles.
He surely is playing one on
The fact of the matter is
TV.
that you will be remembered as one of the worst attorney generals in history. An attorney general who has prioritized obstruction over justice, corruption over the law, fealty to the president over loyalty to the Constitution. And Mr. Chairman, I will yield.
Filthy work. That was amazing. Thank you. It's so many good things today.
Hey, look what I can do! A structural decision made in 2011. A decision made by a man.
Dearty, for you.
Well, what else is our money supposed to go to? I mean, we have to make sure that people can identify them when they see them, so big wooden cardboard images could, help out in the effort. I will check this out as well. Thank you, Grand Designs. What is this one? Yeah, I will read through that.
Man who had just spent time
We're
with
like
the
a little over halfway through this
insider.
one.
Now, this brings us to the supreme irony. The QAnon movement,
Exactly,
which found its
Moon.
legs on /poll.
I wonder how much that cost.
Fundamentally a narrative about the cabal. It is a story about, good versus evil, man. Where a secret group of elites is trafficking children and controlling the world. And only Donald Trump and a secret insider named Q can stop them. They obsess over flight logs. They analyze photos of politicians' shoes. They look for symbols and pizza shop logos. But here's the reality they refuse to engage with. The very infrastructure of their movement, the servers, the code, the board itself, was greenlit by a man who was literally being driven home by Jeffrey Epstein. If you apply their own logic, the logic of no coincidences, the logic of guilt by association, then the entire QAnon movement is compromised at its root. But wait, they won't do that. Why? Because it shuts down critical thinking. It creates a cognitive dissonance that is too painful to bear. It's easier to believe that Hillary Clinton is eating babies in a pizza shop basement than it is to accept that your digital awakening happened on a message board that exists because a tech bro wanted to clean up his site after meeting with a billionaire pedophile. This is projection, but I also think it goes a little deeper than that. It's about a desperate need for a hero narrative. When we look at the research, specifically Hagen's work on how /poll portrays its enemies, we see a community that is deeply alienated. They are looking for someone to blame for their economic anxiety, their social isolation, their lack of a village. So they invent a dragon to slay, and they congregate in a digital tavern to plan their attack. The tragedy is that the tavern landlord was hanging out with the dragon. Is this just a mistake, or is it a feature of how controlled opposition works? By providing a platform for the most chaotic, unhinged conspiracy theories, you effectively neutralize real political dissent. I mean, think about it from a logical materialist perspective, If you are a member of the ultra-wealthy elite, what's more dangerous to you? A unified working class demanding fair wages and tax reform? Or a fragmented group of internet sleuths hunting for non-existent basements and pizza shops? The relaunch of /poll didn't challenge the system. It created the perfect distraction for it.
This is crazy.
It allowed users to feel like revolutionaries while they were actually engaging in parasocial affection for figures who wouldn't let them within 100 yards of their gated communities. This is the ultimate way to avoid accountability. And this brings us to the uncomfortable truth about the Save the Children crowd. They believe they are the resistance. But in reality, they are the useful idiots of the very class they claim to despise. By focusing on demonic attacks and spiritual warfare, they ignore the material conditions that actually harm children. Poverty, lack of health care, the crumbling education system, as well as the defunding of anti-trafficking organizations that we have seen under this very administration. These are policy choices, often supported by the very politicians.
Another
/ poll
W for the
champion.
billionaire class.
It's a lack
Oh,
of
I'm hoping the
empathy
billionaire class
masquerading as a crusade.
crashes after this.
And the Epstein connection to 4chan's founder is a perfect symbol of this. The elite class, represented by Epstein, and the tech class, represented by Poole, collaborated, knowingly or not, to create a safe space that directs anger downward at immigrants and minorities rather than upward at the people hoarding the wealth. Poole wanted a containment board to clean up his site for the advertisers. Epstein wanted, well, I think we have an idea of what Epstein wanted. But the result here was a digital weapon that fractured reality for millions of people. The users of /poll think that they're taking the red pill, but the pill was manufactured in the same factory as the poison. They are trapped in a feedback loop, defending the system structure while screaming about its symptoms.
Wait, there's more
The
doomer
next time you
pilling?
hear somebody ranting about the cabal and the deep state based on
This isn't doomer pill enough
supposed
for
intel
you?
they got from an anonymous image board, remember the timeline. Remember October 2011. Remember that the revolution they are selling was launched on a day when the founder of their movement's home base was getting a lift from the man they supposedly hate the most. It's not just irony. It's a tragedy of misplaced faith and manipulated anger. Now, if you found this analysis helpful, please like and subscribe for more content. Consider supporting our Patreon.
It is good stuff. So what you got for me? A different perspective. This is a great video. I'm glad I found it. So what we got here, examining Jeffrey Epstein's veiled connections following new revelations. And this is from 2024. So with all the stuff we have now, we're going back 2 years. Contacts of deceased sex offender Jeffrey Epstein revealed this week as a judge began unsealing court records related to a settled 2015 civil lawsuit. While the names revealed won't come as much of a surprise to those following the case, the repeated mention of Les Wexner, yes, the billionaire founder of Bath & Body Works, is a reminder of Epstein's many connections to Vail and Aspen. Wexner has not been accused of any wrongdoing until just recently. Finally, Wexner and Epstein met in the 1980s, a relationship that resulted in Wexner giving Epstein power over his finances and obtaining a New York mansion, private plane, luxury estate valued at roughly $100 million. Ugh. Horrible people. Virtually from the moment in the 1980s that Mr. Epstein arrived on the scene in Columbus, Ohio, Mr. Wexner's friend and colleagues were mystified as to why a renowned businessman in the prime of his career would place such trust in an outsider with a thin resume and scant financial experience, the New York Times reported. Different doom and pilling perspective is that after the billionaires are done milking the last penny from us working class, they will kidnap and Kung Fu Joe they're our daughters. I mean, that's like half the plan. Yeah, he was literally handed money for no reason. Like he wasn't doing anything particularly prolific. He worked for Bear Stearns. He wasn't anyone special. He worked as a teacher, wasn't very good at it, but he ended up running into this monster. Wexner owned a home in the Vale in the 1980s and was the subject of a 1985 New York Magazine piece detailing his self-professed encounter with the Dybbuk while climbing a mountain in Vale, an incident which Wexner almost froze to death, according to the piece. If only Dubuque is a disembodied human spirit because of former sins, wanders restfully until it finds a haven in the body of a living person. Was it him? Yeah, literally no reason. The New York Magazine piece went on to describe the many relationships in Wexner's life, including his friendship with Vale's chief of police at the time, Kurt Ufkes. So many weird names. The chief of police lives in Wexner's house in Vale, according to the New York Magazine profile. Ufsk, who now lives in Aspen, is listed in Epstein's notorious Black Book of Contacts, where he is listed as a way to get in touch with Wexner. Wexner has repeatedly said he was not aware of Epstein's wrongdoings. Of course he wasn't. Wexner severed ties with Epstein long before Epstein struck a plea deal in 2008, in which he pleaded guilty to charges, and yet he's covering up for him right now. In which he pleaded guilty to charges of soliciting a minor for prostitution in Florida and was forced to make payments to victims and register as a sex offender. So from once he registered from 2008 upwards, all these people are just gladly dealing with a registered sex offender. That plea deal, in which the Justice Department found that former Labor Secretary Alex Acosta exercised poor judgment in handling of the investigation, allowed Epstein to avoid a possible life sentence and instead serve 13 months in a work release program. Epstein owned a home at 375 Mill Creek Circle in Vale, which was transferred to him in 1998 by Libet Johnson, the heiress to the Johnson & Johnson fortune. Following Epstein's death, the home was sold for $24 million in July. Less than a year later, Leon Black, whose company Apollo Ski Partners became the majority shareholder of Vail Associates in 1992, stepped down as the CEO of Apollo Global Management following the revelation that he paid more than $150 million to disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. Apollo Ski Partners went on to become the modern Vail Resorts. Wexner lied about severing ties. Of course he did. Obviously, look what he's doing right now. What's this? See, I'm telling you, the floodgate is open. Bondi had a list of Democratic lawmakers. Let me pause the ad blocker. High profile. Bondi had a list of Democratic lawmakers. Epstein files search history during Capitol Hill hearing. A high-profile House Democrat accused Attorney General Pam Bondi of spying on her search history while she poured through Jeffrey Epstein-related documents. After Bondi was seen at a combative, yes, to say the least, with what appeared to be a list of the lawmakers' searches, one of the printouts that Bondi referenced during the hearing was a list labeled Jayapal Pramila Search History, referring to Democratic Rep. Pramila Jayapal of Washington. The document listed out at least 8 different files from the Justice Department's trove of Epstein records, including their file numbers and brief description of their contents, according to images snapped by photojournalists who covered the hearings. Ooh. So they are literally spying on people in Washington right now. It's not entirely clear how the list was compiled, but since Monday, the Justice Department has allowed several members of Congress to visit its offices and search through a database of unredacted Epstein files. In recent weeks, the department has made millions of records on the latest sex offender public, but with redactions to take out survivors' names and other information. Oh, there's no reason to even be tinfoil hat at this point. It's right here on the plate. We're just going through it. It's going to keep coming out. They've already gone too far to be able to hide most of this. What you got for me? I see your DM, Moon. I will grab that directly after. I mean, he probably was an asset, but I mean, that doesn't change too much. Because, like, I forget who it was. I think it was somebody that Joe Rogan was talking to, where he basically said that the U.S. has been involved with supplying, like, girls and other gifts to, like, Saudis and people like that to maintain relationships. And if Epstein was a part of that pipeline, of course he's going to be allowed to operate and do the same thing here, completely unassailed. It's freaking disgusting. So, drawing criticisms from some lawmakers who argue the redactions were excessive. Yeah. No. Jaya Powell said in a statement to CBS News on Wednesday, it is totally inappropriate and against the separation of powers for the DOJ to surveil us as we search the Epstein files. Absolutely, that is freaking bonkers. Bondi showed up today with a burn book that held a printed search history of exactly what emails I searched, said the Democrat who previously chaired the Congressional Progressive Caucus. That is outrageous, and I intend to pursue this and stop this spying on members. Jay Powell's office. See, Democrats have all the great Indians, and Republicans got Kash Patel. So it's not Indians that are the problem. It's the Republican Party at this point. Jayapal's office says she is organizing a letter seeking to investigate what she alleges is improper surveillance of lawmakers who reviewed the Epstein files. Don't forget Nikki Haley. Oh, bro. Rep. Jamie Raskin, the top Democrat of the House Judiciary Committee, said in a statement Wednesday he will ask the Justice Department Inspector General to investigate what he called an outrageous abuse of power. This is just getting Orwellian with these people. I mean, yeah. They better cut it out immediately now that they've been caught. CBS News has reached out to the Justice Department for comment. Jayapal was among the Democrats who sparred with Bondi during an hours-long and often pugilistic House Judiciary Committee hearing that focused largely on the Justice Department's handling of the Epstein files. At one point, Jayapal pressed Bondi on 2 of the documents that appeared on the Attorney General's search history list, pointing to them as examples of mistakes during the Justice Department's redaction process. One of the files was an email exchange between Epstein and high-profile Emirati Sultan, sounds exactly like what was being spoken about, whose email address is blacked out, drawing criticism from lawmakers. The other file, which has been removed from the Justice Department's public database, was an email with the subject line Epstein Victims List that named dozens of people with few redactions. Jayapal asked Bondi to apologize to Epstein survivors for failing to shield their personal information. She also asked survivors who attended the hearing to raise their hands if they had not yet met with the Justice Department. Bondi responded by criticizing Biden-era Attorney General Merrick Garland over his handling of the Epstein matter and said, I'm not going to get into the gutter for her theatrics. You're already in the gutter. It's too late. Jayapal is not the only congressional Democrat to raise questions about the system set up by the Justice Department lawmakers to search through the Epstein files. Representative Suhas Subramanyam of Virginia said earlier Wednesday that the department is set up for computers in a really tiny room and created a unique login and password for each of us. He also said lawmakers weren't allowed to bring phones into the room and were only allowed to take written notes and a standalone notepad. They were trying to make it as hard as possible for us to connect the dots, Subramanian said, told streaming host Aaron Parnas. And my apologies for butchering that name. My goodness. All right, back to this one. Oh, yeah, and I got to grab this from Moon. I bet this is diabolical. Oh, it won't let me watch it. I'll have to pull it up another way. Where is it? Can I just push the button?
Back to black feudalism in the future, because quite frankly, I hate the idea
Is there any way to turn this down? Nope.
of a Pan-African state where there is egalitarianism and every single...
Not that one. Okay, well, I'll have to pull up another one. I'll figure it out later. I will grab that. I have so much to read. Jeez. I've seen excerpts from this, but I've never read the entire article. He met his W again when he climbed. Oh my God, this is just a puff piece. This person has definitely been allowed to enjoy way too much in life, and that needs to be snuffed right out, and he needs to go right to jail. There's no way he should be allowed to live like this. Snuff out that life of luxury, right into jail, straight to jail. Cream soda? Okay, so there was only like this much of it. Yeah, I'll have to read that on my own time because... Okay, so it goes to about here. Yeah, that makes sense. Mayor Cope. This is crazy. I swear the people involved. It started from a poor family. Very weird that he got involved in this mess. I mean, I don't know that his hands were all that clean to begin with. Like his running of Victoria's Secret, I'm sure had some seedier issues going on with it, especially where they, you know, got a lot of their models from and how they treated their models, as well as his ability to just get involved with Jeffrey Epstein with no problems and let him have full stake. Like, it's kind of crazy. So, Apolsky Partners, Modern Vale Resorts, Leon Black's Apollo Global Management had assigned a young executive, Rob Katz, to the Vale account in 1992, and he had been intimately involved in the company's significant moves, including the purchases of Breckenridge, Keystone, and also Heavenly, and the Rock Resorts lodging outfit for Steamboat president and COO Chris Diamond. All these people have had their hands in this pot. Black has been accused of rape in 3 separate cases, one of which was thrown out after a judge ruled a non-disclosure agreement signed by the alleged victim invalidated the suit. 2 other cases, one involving an underage girl, shocking, remain ongoing. Black has denied the allegations. Earlier this year, Black agreed to pay $62.5 million to avoid Epstein-related lawsuits in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The company we keep, right? Black is also under investigation by the Senate Finance Committee for his financial dealings with Epstein. The committee's investigation began in June 2022 and was prompted by inconsistencies in a report by the law firm of Deckert LLP that Apollo's board of directors commissioned to examine Black's ties to Epstein. The Deckert report found that Black paid Epstein, who was neither a licensed tax attorney nor a certified public accountant, a total of $158 million in several installments. He's straight up blackmailing people. Wexner's son works in the Trump admin. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked, but in several installments between 2012 and 2017, the payments were inexplicably large, well in excess of what Black paid any other financial advisors and far higher than the median compensation of a Fortune 500 CEOs at the time. Oh, Blacks. Okay, that's not shocking. Epstein's other Colorado connections include Robert Hearst. Ooh, Robert Hearst. I haven't heard that name in a while. A former board member at the Aspen Music Festival and member of the executive committee of the Aspen Institute, and Joe Pagano, an Aspen-based venture capitalist. While both men are listed in Epstein's Black Book, neither has been accused of any wrongdoing. Epstein was known to associate with many wealthy and powerful individuals through his philanthropy efforts. Others named in the initial documents include former President Bill Clinton, former President Donald Trump, now current president, Britain's Prince Andrew, Michael Jackson, David Copperfield, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Cameron Diaz. Why not mention Woody Allen? Because that dude is a freaking creep. As News Nation pointed out in its coverage of the Epstein case, it's imperative to note that the list does not imply that everyone is accused of wrongdoing or illegal or immoral behavior. I mean, that remains to be seen.
worse
So
from
on
here.
to
We're
this
going
one.
back into the 3 million documents. So far, we mostly covered how billionaires lied about their relationship with Epstein.
Well, I figure out how to
and or
get the
got blackmailed
link
in the
working
drafts,
from
eventually
Moon.
killing their marriage. We talked about Howard Lutnick, how he lied about meeting Epstein, although he still denies this. And we also talked about some horrible accusations against Trump and Bill Clinton, although we were clear that they are unverified. Now, some people have responded to the release, like Elon Musk, saying that no one fought harder for the full release of the Epstein files than I did. Ironically, he claims that he knew that the playbook of the far-left propagandists and legacy media is admit nothing, deny everything, and making counter accusations, saying he had never set foot on Epstein's creepy island or attended.
Nope, that doesn't work. I'll have to pull it up in the Discord. Yeah, I'll have to pull that up. So I'll open up the Discord later and get that
Elon was
done.
asking to be invited to the party. What day and night would be the wildest party on your
Elon.
island? Nevertheless, I think it's an interesting point. The playbook, as we get into this much darker side of the 3.5 million files, you're going to notice this trend is true, that everyone we're going to talk about, basically they admit nothing, they deny everything, and then they usually make counter accusations against other people in the files. Almost no one has faced any kind of consequences for this whole thing, leading me to wonder, why is it that it seems like really only in the rest of the world has anyone faced anything? I mean, you've got the former Prince Andrew losing his title. You've got the Slovakia National Security Advisor resigning over the Epstein links. But in America, I'm really hard-pressed.
Yeah, he didn't want a tame time. He wanted a wild party.
Faced any kind of accountability. I think Larry Summers stepped back voluntarily, but other than that, it's hard to think of anyone who's faced any kind of justice. In fact, arguably, Ghislaine Maxwell's life is better than it was previously since these Epstein files have dropped. And what's crazy about this is that we know that the government story is false. Remember, the FBI documents showed they had 10 co-conspirators they were investigating. We also got an old draft of an indictment where they had several co-defendants with Epstein. Now, of course, we know these were never ultimately charged. This was back in 2005, but just imagine all the way back in 2005, where these charges are from, we already had evidence that Epstein was not working alone, and of course he's not. But now we're going to talk a little bit about how the scheme operated. Now, to be clear,
Wait a
we're going to
minute.
talk in a second about the laundering of Epstein's reputation. The people who...
We got a new Voidzilla video 17 minutes ago. See, it's just...
I am increasingly
keeps
disgusted by the way
dropping.
this is all a big joke to liars like Howard Lutnick, who deceived the American public about the status of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
That guy was there. I wasn't going.
Now he testifies under oath that he actually went to the island of the creep and brought his kids.
We had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children.
Nevertheless, every time Epstein is
You
brought
took
up,
your
this
kids
guy
around
can't
him?
stop chuckling. Here's Lutnick laughing again when Trump is addressing a question about Epstein.
To talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation.
I don't know. I could ask you that question.
He thinks it's the funniest thing he's ever heard. And maybe it's because they really think we are buying it. Maybe it's because they think, hey, we're just gonna do
Nobody has lunch for just an hour.
So the lies are so brazen, so audacious, so in your face that it is actually funny to them. And you know what? I have to agree that the way the FBI and DOJ have been treating this is a joke. Because we just talked to a congressman who passed the Epstein Transparency Act. As part of it, the DOJ was supposed to release all the Epstein files with no redactions except for survivors. That didn't happen. Several of the survivors' names were left unredacted, and several of the perpetrators' names were left redacted.
Is an email that was sent by the victims' lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. The title of this one is Child Trafficking. Co-conspirators, fully redacted.
But in response to criticism that they had over-redacted, they said, hey, we're so transparent, we're going to let you guys come and see the unredacted files to the congressman. The problem is, guess what happened when those congressmen showed up? This. The unredacted files, many of them, were redacted underneath the redaction. There were
They
two
double
layers of
redacted
redactions.
it.
By the time the DOJ got them,
'Cause they knew they screwed
were
up the first
already
time.
redacted. So what they're looking at is an unredacted, redacted copy of the Epstein files. This is at the same time that the FBI has a government project to build a next-generation redaction tool where they claim they need multi-layer redaction management. And you can see
They're
it
still
here
mad that we
where
got through the first layer of
representative talks
redactions.
about getting to see the, quote, unredacted files. He says the search function didn't actually work. Half the stuff I was looking for was still redacted. We couldn't write on files we brought in. We shared 4 computers for 435 members of Congress. So what is this actually? This is transparency theater. This is not real transparency. It is actually a joke. Here's another
Are you
joke.
serious?
The FBI just concluded again
Where are
that
you
Jeffrey
getting all
Epstein
this?
wasn't running a ring for powerful men. But when the public
I guess
was
you're just
asked
as
about
interested
this
in
just
it
the other
as I
day,
am.
94% believe that he was.
I'm not going to
So
watch all 3
obviously,
hours,
there's a
but
huge
my
gap
goodness.
between what the FBI says they believe and what the public, who has now at this point seen most of the same files, say they believe. If anything, the FBI by definition would have access to more evidence. And yet with the files that we already do have, 94% of the public say, yeah, Epstein obviously was
You're probably right,
but
Fister.
the FBI, of course, isn't investigating new parties. They say there's no evidence for it.
Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one
For the information that we have
in the files.
in the case file.
Okay, even if you believe what he says, after the revelation,
He's
that
gotta
the
be
FBI
lying. He needs to
themselves
go up for
thought
lying.
there were 4 co-conspirators in the previous draft indictment. They later said they thought they had
Okay,
10
fair enough.
co-conspirators. Now you're supposed to believe, nope, no women were trafficked.
I'm just saying
to
I'm not
any
going to
of
watch
these
it on
people.
I'm not going to listen
Epstein
to it on
was
stream because that's
working
straight up
alone.
3
It might be
hours.
surprising
And I
to
won't be
learn
able to help myself
that
from
the
saying
DOJ
something.
and FBI under Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, who ran on
So
the
3
idea
hours
of
in stream
releasing these
time is
files,
actually like
have not
5
talked
to
to
7
people who
hours.
say they were victimized by Jeffrey Epstein. This was brought out 2 different times. I want to watch both of them with you because it's astonishing to hear someone say, we have no credible evidence on other perpetrators, only to learn you never talked to the women who were allegedly trafficked.
At the age of 14 and 16 years old, and they called to meet with the president and to meet with the FBI and to have people investigate their claims. Some of them have never testified before. If you are so interested in getting the public to submit any information, why have you not met with them? You said you haven't met with them. Have you met with them? I'll give you one more chance.
My job as the FBI director is to
Is
invite
the
all
answer yes or
investigative
no
leads.
to whether or not you met with these women who were abused and
Any insinuation by you or any
What
people
is
on
the
your
an-
side that I am not manhunting child traffickers, just look at the
Mr.
stats.
Patel,
And you talk
Mr.
about
Chairman,
cover-ups, man.
Mr. Chairman,
you
this
talk
is
about
my time,
cover-ups.
and
I'm going to stop it there. It just devolves. He refuses to answer the question of, did you actually meet with these women? Luckily for us, some of those same people later showed up at another hearing, this time in a hearing with Pam Bondi.
survivors in the room. If you are willing, please stand. And if you are willing, please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice. Please know for the record that every single survivor has raised their hand.
Yeah, it's honestly shocking
Damn.
to see. There's these people who are claiming to be
Every
victims
single
of Epstein.
survivor.
The DOJ and FBI have consistently said, look, we want to take all available evidence. We just need the evidence.
And we have continuously and publicly asked for the public to come forward with more information. If there is, we'll look at it.
And then it's like, well, did you interview these people who say they have evidence? Well, no, actually, we didn't. This comes up again.
Now, would the survivors and victims who are here please stand up one more time?
It's ridiculous.
Just by show of hands, how many of you or your loved ones actually have met with the Department of Justice and provided testimony and estimate and evidence? None. And of those of you who have not met, which is
Busy
everyone,
running
how many
cover.
of you have reached out either individually or through a lawyer or representative to offer to provide testimony and evidence? All of them.
Bruh.
I mean, what can you even say to that? This is a DOJ. This is an FBI that claims to be interested in getting to the bottom of the Epstein files, except when actually asked, they cover up, they redact, and they don't ask for victim testimony or evidence. I mean,
of course
how can
not.
you possibly say you've reached a conclusion as to an
What's this
investigation
one,
when you
Grand
literally
Designs?
haven't talked to the people who would
Appreciate
be
the
a
links, by the
victim
way.
of said investigation? Furthermore, how can Kash Patel say under oath, without perjuring himself, that there was no credible evidence that Epstein trafficked to anyone else, when internal emails to 710 Director's Call, it says approximately 4 to 5 victims accused other adult men of abusing them? There was not enough evidence to federally charge these individuals, so the cases were referred to local law enforcement. Again, there's a
I mean, they
huge
might have been
difference
afraid we'd
between
riot.
There's no credible evidence.
There is no credible information. None.
And we couldn't pull charges. I mean, that's a totally different thing. And in that case, isn't the whole point to investigate that? Isn't the whole point to call more of the people saying they have evidence? Isn't that your job? How can the FBI, the DOJ, conclude definitively that Epstein wasn't trafficking to anyone when Jess Staley, during a UK court hearing in 2025, admitted to having with a member of Epstein's staff? He, of course, described it as consensual. But internally within the Epstein files, there's accusations against Jess Staley. One of the files alleges that a victim was left with body marks after an interaction with the former Barclays boss. The disgusting Mr. Staley, if anyone ever calls me Tinkerbell again,
Well, I hope
I
they
will
write a letter
lose
for
my
him,
mind.
too.
Which I know sounds weird that Jess Staley would allegedly
I
refer to
will
a
read
girl as some type of like Disney character or cartoon character, but this is consistent with email exchanges. Jess Staley says, "That was fun," to Jeffrey Epstein. "Say hi to Snow White. What character would you like next?" Epstein later asks, to which Staley replied, "Beauty and the Beast." Epstein responded, "Well, one side is available." Now again, I'm not saying these emails would be enough to charge Jess Staley, but to investigate? Almost certainly. It's definitely unconscionable to say there's zero evidence of Epstein trafficking to anyone.
There is no credible information. None.
How can that possibly be true when some of your files say 4 or 5 victims accused other men? So it is just totally insane to me the way we are all treating this, where the people in power whose job it is to hold these people accountable, they want to laugh about it, they want to joke, they want you to smile about the whole thing. This actually came to a head when one reporter asked about the survivors.
But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
But what would you say to people who feel like they haven't gotten
healthcare,
justice, Mr. President?
Something that people care about.
Gotten
You are
justice.
the worst reporter. You know, she's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile
Well,
on
I'm
your
asking
face.
you about survivors of Jeffrey
Epstein. You know
Epstein's,
why you're
Mr.
not
President.
smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth.
It's honestly baffling. I mean, how are we supposed to
brow
act during
beating.
the Epstein files when we hear about these horrific stories? Are we all supposed to be like Howard Lutnick, just guffawing, laughing it up? How are we supposed to?
Like, seriously, the soul of these people, while they're sitting there talking about people that are victims of abuse, actively covering it up, and they're sitting there cheesing in the background like they got away with it. Ain't no way.
Treat this travesty of justice. And again, I want to restate for the millionth time, this is not political, no matter how much the DOJ and FBI try to argue that it is.
What? Too
The
much
person
ha-ha
we're
makes
about to watch
boo-hoo.
questioning Pam Bondi is a Republican. But anytime you say anything negative about the Epstein file handling, which was run on by this administration, they either bounce to, well, you must hate Trump, or the Democrats didn't do it last time, so we shouldn't be expected to do anything either. And you're about to see more of that.
Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one
Yes.
redaction out
Where
of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
4,700,
Okay.
and we invited
what?
you
Show the
in.
video.
This guy has Trump derangement syndrome.
Take this woman
Literally,
away.
we
Take her
caught
away.
you guys redacting a co-conspirator's name. I mean, there's a lot more
In
than that.
real
they
time,
redacted,
in
but it's like,
4K.
for them to say, oh, what? It was just one name. We put it up when you said so. When you caught us on our 4 computers we allowed you to use with redactions on top of redactions. And Pam Bondi's performance here was so bad that at one point she's being asked about, like, are you bringing any more indictments? Are you investigating anyone? And she jumps back to some pretty bizarre talking points.
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even
investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Are you?
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer the
theatrics are
question the way
ridiculous.
I asked it.
And none of them asked Merrick Garland over the last
Fake
4
outrage.
years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump,
3 eldest Trump kids know all about it.
the Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking
That's what
about
we're
does
trying
the
to
Dow
do,
have
Bondi.
do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
No, I do want to know, what does the Dow have to do with Jeffrey Epstein victims? I truly don't understand that. So yeah, this whole thing was a complete disaster of a meltdown. They're treating it as an absolute joke, and they criticize you if you don't smile, like Howard Lutnick when he's caught lying about the Epstein files. And while I can't personally muster that kind of energy, I
telling
do
you,
want to
Mo.
talk about some more of the wrevelations in the Epstein
You are
file.
not
The
wrong.
most noteworthy is that Trump called the Palm Beach Police Department immediately after Epstein was arrested, according to a police chief that was interviewed in 2019. He says back
people
when
are
he
monsters.
arrested Epstein the first time, Trump called him and said, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." Saying about Maxwell, she's evil, and to focus on her, according to the police chief, Trump was one of the first people to call. Julie K. Brown said that when Trump called the chief, it was after the Epstein story became public, when Epstein was arrested. This actually goes a long way to explain Speaker Mike Johnson's previous comments that Trump blew the whistle to the FBI to stop Epstein.
He was an FBI informant
To cover himself.
Take this stuff down.
It's obvious that he probably just misunderstood that it was an FBI interview of a police chief, and that at the time it was the Palm Beach Police Department handling that case. And I think that even for the people who say, okay, that's just because they had a falling out over real estate or anything like that, I think it undoubtedly is a good look for Donald Trump, and clearly something they're going to hang on to as more of these files get released. We also have something that kind of goes the other way. Remember the Wall Street Journal birthday book story, which Trump said is absolutely false and he's suing over? We have a B-Day book update sent in 2002 when the book was supposedly drafted, and we see LM for blank, George Mitchell, Donald Trump, Henry Jarecki, and Leon Black, which definitely undermines his case, defamation case, against the Wall Street Journal. I think another interesting component of this was realizing that Jeffrey Epstein was secretly buying motion-detected hidden cameras that record, and one of the people who said they were installing them said they were installing them into Kleenex boxes. There's another email from Jeffrey Epstein where he claims to need a button camera for the Sultan. Once again, highlighting that this case about Jeffrey Epstein is also a bizarre case of power. Who did this guy work for? He talks about going to an SCIF,
File points
which
to
might
victim
be
naming
an
Trump as
acronym
being
for a
aware of
sensitive,
Epstein's track record. I mean,
compartmented information facility. Later, he says
that's a guarantee. You just basically threw him under the bus, hoping he wouldn't get caught up in it.
This is an intelligence term, which is usually something you need the ability to receive classified information for, although it's not clear because later Epstein says that his house is similar to an SCIF. So the connection to the government is not exactly bulletproof. I don't want to give the false impression that it was, but it does raise a bunch of questions. Like Bradley Edwards, one of the victim's lawyers, actually speaks about this in his book. He said that this bodyguard had been sent by Epstein to Virginia to CIA headquarters. Nervously telling me the story, the bodyguard said, "I don't know why I was there, but he told me they would take care of me. I attended a class for a week. At the beginning of the class, everyone had to introduce themselves. There were 45 people. 44 were in the CIA or some other government unit with top secret clearance. I was the only private citizen." So clearly there's some
Crazy.
indication, some testimony to the fact that Epstein may have had access to either classified briefings or he had some pool with the CIA. Now, we might know about this because there was actually a FOIA to the CIA about Jeffrey Epstein. Ironically, it was from Jeffrey Epstein. This is Jason Leopold saying the Epstein filed FOIA requests with the CIA in which he sought documents that would show that he had a, quote, open affiliation with the CIA, between 1999 and 2011, and NSA for documents relating or referring to himself, Epstein did not receive any records. Instead, he got GLOMARS. That just refers to a term
I don't know
that
what that
basically they
means.
neither confirmed or denied it because they said that doing so would reveal, quote, a classified connection to the CIA, and thus the CIA
Not
cannot
looking good.
confirm or deny the existence of records responsive to your request. Therefore, you may consider this portion a denial of your request pursuant to FOIA exemptions. More specifically, they say, we search the CIA originated responsive records that might reflect an open or otherwise acknowledged agency affiliation. So these are also the important questions we need answers to, but it's hard to get them when everything is treated as a joke, when nobody takes this seriously. So yeah, all in all, this is a very frustrating story to cover, given how the people handling the whole story are engaging with it. They're laughing, they're joking, they're not responding, they're telling us to smile, and in general, they just want us to get over it. But I don't think that's gonna happen.
What we got, my dude?
Jim Crow law is a good thing. Did getting rid of Jim Crow negatively impact both white and black people?
I think there's a mixed consensus on this, to be honest. Hold on, I can actually.
What?
The black guy is saying it's mixed. We don't know if Jim Crow laws were good or bad. That's great. I love it. Clipping that. Woo! God, holy shit. The black guy is like, man, it's mixed. We can't figure it out. It doesn't. What?
There's
You suck, bro.
Listen, there's nuance to Jim Crow laws, guys. Guys, we should hear out the Jim Crow laws. I want to be discriminated on. Discriminate on me,
Cook
Daddy.
this dude.
Please step on me, Daddy. You're literally, you have a fucking fetish for a
That's
fucking
okay.
foot on your back, bro. What
Okay.
a fucking,
I'm
what a
going to
fucking
explain-
idiot, dude.
I'm
What
going
a
to explain-
fucking
let
moron.
let
Explain
Marte.
it.
Jim Crow law is a good.
Vigi, you are diabolical. Marte, law is a good thing to get rid of them. Getting rid of Jim Crow negatively impact both white and black people. That was a diabolical $5 that you spent. Money well spent. My goodness. Oh. I'll watch a little bit
Did
more.
Getting rid of Jim Crow negatively impact
Oh, that was the whole
both
clip.
white
Yeah, that
and
was
black
great.
people?
All right, here's something stupid that I got sent the other day.
Yeah, when you hear this, you are going to be absolutely shocked. This is crazy stuff. Make sure y'all go subscribe to Extra Rich, because we're going to be talking about this tomorrow. This is absolutely crazy. Check it out.
Why are Democrats more committed to demonizing law enforcement than in defending you, law-abiding citizens? And now another clear example from New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani, who recently made a hospital visit, not to see a police officer, but to see the man who stabbed a police officer with a knife. Here's cut 14.
And as you said, I spoke with the Chakraborty family and I visited Chavez in the hospital. And there is no family should have to endure this kind of pain.
That audio you heard there, that's the audio, the sound of someone stabbing a police officer with a knife. So a police officer in New York is attacked in the line of duty, and Zoran Mamdani shows up to comfort the attacker. That is your Democratic Party, America, in 2026. They have chosen a side. It is not the police.
Okay, so to everybody watching, what do you think happened? Do you think, like, literally this is just some dude stabbing up an officer in the line of duty? Or do you think there's some context that may be missing in this story and is being spun disgustingly to make Mamdani look bad? I'll give it a second because I have the news story. Because as soon as I heard this, I'm like, okay, I need the context. Why was the officer there? What was being done? So, yeah, Ancom, what do you think happened? Why do you think this officer may have possibly been assaulted? And why do you think Mom Donnie is urging for the charges to be dropped against the man that stabbed the officer? If the officer even got stabbed, for all I know. And mind you, when I responded to the person that sent me this, I got no response back afterward. Worse, Moon. Worse. Probably because that officer's being a douchebag, racist fuckwad. That would usually be the case, but it's even worse. Mamdani is calling on city prosecutors to drop its pursuit of attempted murder charges against knife-wielding man who allegedly lunged at a police officer amid an alleged psychotic episode. Body camera footage released by the New York Police Department showed two officers responding to a 911 call made to a Queens home on January 26. The call was made by family members sharing that 22-year-old Jabez Chakrabarty was experiencing a mental health emergency. On the 911 call, a family member claimed that Chakrabarty had thrown a glass at the wall and they were seeking for him to be transported to a facility. Officers were invited into the home by a woman when Chakrabarty appeared behind her holding a large kitchen knife. The woman stuck her arm in front of Chakrabarty, and the officers raised their guns, calling on Chakrabarty. The officers closed the front entry door behind them, creating a barrier between them and the 22-year-old man. However, footage allegedly shows that Chakrabarty continued to lunge at the officers and push through the door, prompting the officer to shoot Chakrabarty 4 times. He was transported to the hospital and is currently in intensive care.
Oops. Ever since I've been watching videos, I don't stand by the door no more.
Bingo! The officers mishandled a mental health emergency and proceeded to draw down on somebody in the middle of a psychotic episode. The family wasn't in that much danger. They seemed perfectly capable of answering the door and mostly dealing with him, but they needed him in a facility. Like how disgustingly they cut the video.
Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife move! Put the knife down!
These bitch-ass officers locked the family in with the knife-wielding man. Bunch of pussies.
Put the knife down! Drop the knife! Drop the knife! Drop the knife! Shots fired! Shots fired!
How am I supposed to view this incident? Now the Queens District Attorney's Office is seeking to pursue criminal charges against Chakrabarty, who allegedly has schizophrenia. However, the family is protesting these charges, saying they requested to EMS to assist in the medical emergency. They claim the officers only escalated the situation, obviously. Rather than de-escalate the situation, the officers instead further escalated by drawing his gun and yelling orders, because that's exactly what you do when someone is going through a psychotic episode. Start screaming at him. That absolutely works. Within a minute of the NYPD's arrival, Jabez was shot multiple times and almost killed, while he was calmly eating food just minutes earlier. Mamdani, who ran his mayoral campaign on improving the city's response to mental health crisis, shared in the family sentiment that Chakrabarty should not be charged. But this, from what that jackass said, is Democrats catering to criminals over law enforcement. I want to read some of the comments. Brought to you by the voters of NYC. You reap what you sow. So who needs mental care? A knife man lunging at police or a mayor who doesn't want him prosecuted? See all the above. When will you be sharing the answer? These people, give that cop a raise. Whatever this news source is, their readers are also monsters. Yeah, he never even got near the officers. But like the fact that the officers, the people that called for the officers to show up, got closed into the room with the knife-wielding individual. Rather than letting the dude run out to the front, maybe tasing him or finding some non-lethal way of subduing the man, they proceeded to open fire on him. Their first option was to pull their weapons. Yeah, it was just a little knife party. Like, I don't see what was so terrifying. But yeah, that's crazy to me. That's exactly what they want. So back to this
protected him this whole time. But right now, I want to talk about how Epstein got some of these girls in the first place, because the Epstein files provide an interesting look behind the curtains. Obviously, we know Ghislaine Maxwell was helping, whether it be procure the girls, talk them into stuff. But now we have emails of a different side of the scheme. It says, yesterday I spoke to Daniel Syed, who Jean-Luc Brunel describes as a scout or recruiter of girls or women for Jeffrey Epstein. Attached to this.
And keep in mind, Trump is saying he's going to reopen mental health facilities, but I think that he's only doing so not to help people with mental health problems, but to find other ways to imprison opposition. So if it was any other president or political official doing it, I probably wouldn't have an issue with it, but I'm immediately skeptical when it's Trump that's doing it.
Incoming email from Brunel is the contact
Call it
information
TDS,
he
call
has
it
for
what you
Syed,
want to.
And then they blacked out his number and email. But digging into Jeffrey's emails with Daniel shows that he was constantly sending him links to...
Ancom, you saw that panel I was on the other day. Like, literally, they want flavored boot leather so they can continue to dine. They want to, put it on back order so they can have some for the winter or in case they need it for their fallout shelters. I mean, Blondie should, but that's not the opposition, unfortunately. It's our opposition. She definitely seems unhinged.
Girls. It shows Jeffrey Epstein paying Daniel 3,000 euros, which, to be clear, was the amount that was agreed to by Jean-Luc Brunel. Quote, Dominique, we will pay him 3,000 euros each month for scouting for a 6-month period. On all models we will get him, we will pay him 5% commission on their...
And so as you hear about these models and the commission and everything that's going on, how does everyone think that Trump got girls for his pageants?
Earnings. Imagine it's like baseball or it's like basketball. You're scouting for, I hate to use the word talent, but that's really what this guy was doing. He was going around the globe trying to find people for Jeffrey Epstein and Jean-Luc Brunel. According to one lawsuit, Epstein trafficked a Jane Doe to Jean-Luc Brunel many times. It describes their operation
Solid
as this.
winky
Many of the
face.
girls came from poor countries or impoverished backgrounds. He lured them in with a promise of making good money. Quote, Brunel has been a model scout for various modeling agencies for many years, and he was apparently able to get U.S. passports for young girls to work as models. Eventually, of course, being sent to
I'm
Jeffrey
sure he had his
Epstein.
own.
Now, it should be noted that Jean-Luc Brunel
But I'm going to say it was
himself
probably
died
a
in prison by
collaboration.
hanging, and that's while he was being accused of horrible
Don't
crimes
quote me on
related to
that.
trafficking and minors. So this guy is not a good guy. He was part of the op along with Daniel Syed, who was also scouting on behalf of Epstein and Jean-Luc
I mean, that's
Brunel.
my
They
answer,
had their
Vigi.
agreement. Here's a sample of how this would work. Jeffrey Epstein asked him to take a full body shot of someone. Daniel Syed says, now she is really skinny.
I know,
want
it's a
Polaroid.
huge
Jeffrey
jump
Epstein asks
moon,
for a copy
but,
of her passport. And
bear
then
with
asks,
me
how many
as this
tickets do you want for
information comes
Woody?
up.
Meaning
How
Woody
many
Allen.
tickets
He
you
says,
want for
2.
Woody?
Okay,
Freaking
thank you.
disgusting Woody
Full
Allen.
body if possible. And then Jeffrey Epstein says, doesn't look too happy. Comments on her body, and then he says she is very sweet. I'll skip a few of the sordid details here. They comment about her body extensively. And then Jeffrey Epstein says, I sent a request. Does she want to come out to Paris on Sunday? He says, I will invite to come. And this is basically how it worked. Daniel Syed flew around the world looking for women, sending photos to Jeffrey Epstein, who then would get copy of their passports and bring them to the States. Here's an example of this. Daniel Syed brings him a girl. They didn't redact this name, but I'm going to do it. He says, very nice, easygoing, dream to work in United States or visit the United States working as a model in Dubai. He asks age. Daniel says 22 or 23. I forgot to ask her. She looks younger. I have her number if you want to call her. She was going to send this evening. And this happens over and over. At one point, he talks about a Thai actress. Jeffrey Epstein says he can see her on Wednesday, and then he complains that she wants to meet in a restaurant. I don't do that in New York, and then says she didn't even respond. Not nice. The point is, a lot of these girls were looking to come to the United States for one reason or another, for some kind of dream. They would ask for passports or visas, and then ultimately get sent here by this network of people who would later be accused of trafficking or other abuses. Now, to be clear, there have not been charges against Daniel Syed, and the government, remember, says they have no evidence to go even predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. So it's a little bit bizarre to be reading about this scouting operation for Jeffrey Epstein, the way he recruited girls, and then be told, yeah, nothing to see
this
here.
whiteboard
one
is
of the scouts
diabolical.
was like this, like, who himself in jail. But no, there's no one else here, even though there's definitely guys floating around. Even though we literally have redacted defendants in our old draft of an indictment. We have nothing to do. We can't possibly imagine doing anything. And that brings me to one of the frustrating parts of these whole files is the redactions. I mean, I know I've been over this, but it's a...
My dude, you have links. Terry Richardson sexually abused model after Trump's modeling agency dismissed her. Concerns about him. Shocking. Like, it just gets worse and worse. Sometime in 2004, meeting in the Manhattan studio, Portillo appeared enthusiastic. During their meeting, Mr. Richardson wore nothing but a robe. After the meeting, Portillo expressed her trepidation to her agents at the Trump Model Management, the modeling agency founded in 1999 by now former president, and told them that Richardson had only a robe. They waved away their distress because that was the point. Jeez.
Different thing. In the past,
Yeah, that
the
was what
files
they were doing.
were sort of overly redacted to protect people. The problem this time is not only are a lot of people still being protected, like literally the names of the people they were going to charge, you couldn't argue those are victims, but the work was just done so sloppy that oftentimes you'll find that the DOJ has uploaded 2 documents that are functionally identical, and they redacted one but not the other, letting you see what's ultimately behind the mask, which is dumb because sometimes the thing they're redacting is Jeffrey Epstein's name. Or other times it's somebody who clearly is not a victim because then you see the non-redacted copy and you're like, yeah, that's clearly not a victim. So it's a little strange what they seem to have done here. Let me give you a for instance. So we have this message from somebody whose name is blacked out, and we see participants, and then we see Jeffrey Epstein is involved, right? And it says, we need to work around your 38. We need to push back on the lies, then crush the pedo trafficking narrative, then rebuild your image as a philanthropist. Now, I want to know who's doing that. Who's trying to rebuild Jeffrey Epstein's image, right? Well, we go ahead, we scroll down, and we see that Jeffrey Epstein sends something. He says, in any bar where drinking age is 18, and you see the participant is once again blacked out. But underneath it, in a separate file, we see Steve Bannon, a famous political figure, is in here, and he's saying the same thing. He says, first, we need to push back on the lies, then crush the trafficking narrative, then rebuild your image as a philanthropist. Guys, why did you censor out his name? Or, like, why was that censored at all? I don't understand. And I certainly don't understand why Jeffrey Epstein's name in this one is censored. So, Jeffrey's not censored in this one, but Bannon is. And then Bannon's not censored in this one, and Epstein is. And sometimes this creates the bizarre impression that they are censoring for victim names or for some like kind of victim status or for some reason. And then you see the other file and you're like, wait, why
Yep,
did
he
you
did.
do this? It's just
He interviewed him and was trying to
poorly done
rehabilitate his
throughout.
image.
That's just something I wanted to comment on. It's
And
not
they
only
even
did they, once again,
consulted
not
with Woody
fully
Allen.
redact things because they were sloppy, but also like victims' names got stuck in this. Like girls' names appear sometimes, and like I'm not sure are they supposed to be redacted because they're redacted over here. They're not over here. I can kind of figure out who it is. It's just kind of a mess. I needed to point that out. You know, other times we have things like this, like Brock Pierce, a co-founder of Tether, also known as the biggest stable coin in the world. He sent a message to Jeffrey Epstein with the subject line Anastasia, and then it's just a bunch of redacted stuff with a few untitled JPEGs in here. And so, you know, you're thinking to yourself, what is this? Is he sending some illicit media? Like, what is this? Well, then we have this page where it wasn't redacted. I put that little dark square.
Really?
I didn't know
I
if
didn't
this
know he
should have
did
been
that.
redacted or not. But it's like a bunch
He
of
was
JPEGs. Now, does that
constantly
contain
saying
victims? Is Brock Pierce
he had
sending
beef with
photos
Epstein,
of victims?
didn't
I
like
don't
him, he
know
was a
because
creep,
of the way the government
barely
did
knew
this.
him.
But
We
underneath,
got coffee
it
for
says
us
the
once.
Ukraine is now my favorite country, smiley face, Brock Pierce, with the subject line, Anastasia. I don't know what to make of that. I'm just saying, the redactions, like the way they did this is not good. But now let's return to
Okay,
Steve
and
Bannon
Clinton, not Epstein.
and
Fair
his,
enough.
we're going to crush the trafficking narrative. Because this guy, oh boy, has been revealed in the files to be
I'll at least
like
give Clinton this much. He's willing to
Jeffrey's
testify as long as it's
right-hand
in front of
PR
a
man.
live audience.
I mean, this guy was filming basically a
Whether or not
documentary
he's
about Jeffrey
guilty
Epstein
of anything,
in order to rehabilitate
and if he is,
his
I say
image.
by all means throw
And
him
some
under
of
the
it has
jail.
actually leaked to the
but
public. It's been interesting to
at
watch
least he's
how
willing
that's
to
been
testify.
received. But the funny thing is that originally Jeffrey Epstein's plan was to just do a YouTube video, like an apology, like a old school 2016, turn on the camera for authenticity and saying, you know, he says, do you think I can do my own video interview and upload it to YouTube? No sandbagging, interview format, or like a diary piece. Steve Bannon says, if you do an interview, it can't be like Johnny does a YouTube. It has to be amazingly professional and perfectly cut. Then Jeffrey Epstein responds, Woody, we assume Woody Allen, because they were close, said he would help edit. Not sure how to stage, what points to make, but better than trying to do an interview that I have no experience doing. Goal is to humanize the monster. Anything written carries
Acknowledging
little
he's a
weight,
monster.
to which Steve Bannon replies,
Amazing.
yes, Jeffrey Epstein. Should it be an interview format, interviewed by me? They start talking about, like, how do we do this? Humor, apology, how did I get rich? Question mark, topics. Their brainstorming. How do we trick the public into seeing me as more than a monster? Now, funny enough, right before this, Jeffrey Epstein asks about
I have
a
no
dinner
idea,
with
Grand
Woody,
Designs.
and then he says, or too many pedos in one place.
I'm guessing he was
And you
probably
gotta
getting
love
some
the
funding from him.
self-awareness
I don't
there.
know
Now,
what else he was
I don't
getting
know
from
what
him.
he meant by that. To be clear, I'm not making that accusation against Woody Allen. We'll talk about him in a second. That's Jeffrey Epstein saying that. I think what's interesting to point out, though, is how all these rich and powerful people are circling the wagons to try to protect Jeffrey Epstein's reputation, right? This is a guy who at this point has been known for years to have pled guilty to these 2008 charges. This was an open secret. And so Steve Bannon goes along though anyways, and he films this documentary. Now what's interesting is he starts talking about the documentary and he starts saying, I'm watching our second hour now. Guys were blown away. I didn't think it was as strong at the time, but I was wrong. Need huge part about threat of AI versus reality, threat of climate change. And this is where the notes start going back and forth of how can we get you to think of other things? So part of the conceit of this big interview of Jeffrey Epstein was to try to humanize him and actually present him as this genius, everyman, quirky guy with a few flaws, right? They knew they couldn't run away from the crimes. To quote, in Bannon's words, yes, 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 of course, but we must counter rapists who traffics in female children to be by world's most powerful, richest men. That can't be redeemed. Can't redeem the unredeemable. You are a lot of things which we will show, but you are not that. Bannon is aware that, like, they can't fully embrace the Epstein thing. They have to kind of make it about more than that. And if you see the YouTube clip going around, that's what that is. And it's been so interesting to watch the reaction because you see, even for people who've been prepped with the idea that this is basically propaganda, some of them still fall for it. They post things like, you know, oh, bro is casually confirming the world's conspiracies because he's talking about 2008. But guys, that's the whole deception. They're like trying to be like, hey, this guy, this horrible monster, he's going to tell you the secrets of the inside club. So you think more, that's the whole thing. That's how they're getting away with this. It's not some kind of, oh, he happened to want to talk about this. This is all premeditated. This has gone through revisions. They even called Jeffrey Epstein the smartest guy in the room.
Look, you're the smartest guy in the room, right? You know that.
It's honestly ridiculous anyone believes the false conceit of, you're obviously the smartest man in the room. You could tell us the world's secrets. I mean, this guy, honestly, he talks about some of his engagements, like with the Rockefeller board, and he tries to say that owning a calculator is why he got that.
It was very advanced in those days to have a Texas Instrument calculator where it could, by putting in the numbers, it would multiply for you to do square roots. And that was the first, and everyone who had a calculator was already advanced on Wall Street. The most important parts of business were really now going to calculations.
There's your
Places like
meritocracy,
Rockefeller
folks.
needed someone
Get
to
a
say,
Texas
"Look, we're entering
Instruments
a different
calculator.
world where numbers and the numbers of
All the
companies,
merit you need.
portfolio management was going to be balanced. It was going to be statistical. Jeffrey, could you come on the board, potentially sit on the finance committee?
So we're honestly supposed to believe that Jeffrey Epstein got onto this prestigious Rockefeller board because he had a calculator, but also that he's the smartest guy in the room, the smartest man on Wall Street. And let's not talk about those horrific crimes he committed because, you know, he's not really such a bad guy after all. But it wasn't just Steve Bannon that was trying to humanize or giving advice on how to humanize Epstein. It was also
Don't throw
Richard
Larry
Branson,
like, oh,
the
I won't be able
famous
to
billionaire.
untie that
He was
in my
caught
head.
emailing Jeffrey Epstein saying, "Dear
I hope
Jeffrey, it was
Larry
really nice
David
seeing you
isn't in
yesterday. The boys
in the
in water
files.
sports can't stop speaking about it. Anytime you are in the area, would love to see you as long as you bring your harem." I don't know, that's not that ambiguous, guys. I think we can imagine what that means. But anyways, he says, one, I think if Bill Gates was willing to say that you've been a brilliant advisor to him, that you slipped up many years ago by sleeping with a 17-and-a-half-year-old and were punished for it, that you've more than learned your lesson and have done nothing that's
Trying
against
to
the law
whitewash
since.
the story,
And yes,
too?
as a single man, you have a penchant for women, but there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, something along those lines. He's giving him PR advice. How to get your reputation back. Hey, Jeffrey, privately, I loved you. You can come back anytime with your harem. Jeffrey Epstein responds, nice seeing you. Thanks for your hospitality. I appreciate your public relations thoughts. Now, according to the New York Times, a Branson representative said the two had a business meeting and stressed the women were adults and had not attended the meeting. All above board. That's what everyone says, by the way. Remember what Elon Musk said, right? That's the playbook. Admit nothing, deny everything.
Whoa,
Speaking of,
no.
remember Howard Lutnick, who we showed on video saying that he had never seen Epstein since 2005.
So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because
People lie with a straight face.
Although also calling him the greatest blackmailer ever.
This guy was the greatest blackmailer ever.
Well, also according to
He
the
got
Times,
you.
Lutnick said he spent zero time with him, even though there are emails basically to the contrary, where Epstein is saying, nice seeing you after the conviction. I mean, these people,
Oh, thanks,
not
Grand
only are they
Design.
lying,
So
they
Bannon
won't even
worked for
admit
Mercer,
when
Mercer
they've
worked with
been
Jim
caught lying.
Simons.
But now let's talk about Prince Andrew, too, who was caught
Jeez.
lying over a woman at some kind of a party. I mean, just not a good, this is not doing you any favors, you know. I know Prince Andrew soon will probably be on the comeback tour. It's going to be a bunch of highly paid PR execs. Maybe Steve Bannon can jump in, shoot another 5-hour podcast trying to rehabilitate him. Like, Prince Andrew, what's the secret behind the royal family?
Look, you're the smartest guy in the room.
But again, has he admitted anything? Has he denied everything? Now, we should also probably talk about Noam Chomsky as well, the guy behind the book Manufacturing Consent, which in hindsight,
Known slime balls.
maybe we should have suspected something. But either way, he also sends
Don't forget
some
the Dersh.
reputational advice to his buddy Jeffrey Epstein. He says, I watched the horrible way you've been treated by the press and public. It's painful to say, but I think the best way to proceed is to ignore it. When the vultures dearly want is a public response, which then provides a public opening. In general, I think it's best not to react unless directly questioned, particularly in the current mood. That's the best advice I can think of. Noam. Now, he sends that to Matthew Hiltzik of Hiltzik Strategies, who is a also famous PR guy, I guess, trying to help Epstein, I assume, who responds, I think that is wise. Now, later talking with Bannon, Epstein loops in Hiltzik again. He says, Matt Hiltzik thought your idea was epic. Hypocrisy of the liberal left. And he says, yep, he would confidentially like to sit and help if you like. This is Matthew Hiltzik. You know, a lot of powerful people basically were bending over backwards, left, right, center, trying to rehabilitate this guy's image. And the question is, why? Why were all these guys so interested in their precious Jeffrey Epstein if they had no involvement? I mean, that's the part I can't figure out it. Because all of them deny it. All of them don't admit anything. And so what exactly is the problem? But now it's time to talk about Elon Musk's brother, Kimball Musk. He was also in the
There's
files.
more Musks.
Jeffrey was copied on an email talking about Kimball's 40th birthday, where the password to the secret party was P Riot. And then in all caps, Boris, the sender of this email, says, I am not joking about the password. This was in 2012 in September. Now that's important because a little bit later, Kimball Musk is emailing Boris Nikolic and Jeffrey Epstein, and he's talking to them about being connected with some redacted name and saying, I believe you both played a role, whatever that means. Now, whether this was at the party or, right after their meeting in October. I don't know. But what's interesting is Boris responds and says, Kimball, just FYI, you better be nice to redacted. Jeffrey goes crazy when someone mistreats his girls/friends, so better be very nice to her. Kimball Musk responds, message received, wide and clear. Then he says, seriously, I'm very happy with my time so far with Jennifer. She's great. Now, again, was that supposed to be a redacted name we just read? Like, I don't know. They've been redacting it in earlier emails. Then all of a sudden you just get Jennifer. I can't really figure that out. But what I can figure out is that a little while later, a few days later, Jeffrey Epstein gets an email. Now, we know Kimball credits the meetup and says Boris and Epstein were responsible in some way for this. But now Jeffrey Epstein's being emailed about Jen's schedule. Is that Jennifer? I mean, it seems like it because Jen's schedule for the rest of the year, and it seems like the assistant has copy and pasted Jen's response because she says, Sue, these would be dates in November, and then starts saying, this, she can go to New York. She says the 29th to the 7th, she's free. Kimball to New York. Then she says, Kimball, Jen, London. Kimball, Jen, London to Morocco, ? Then she has a break, and then it's Jen, Kimball, St. Bart's.
In Elon's orbit.
Assuming we're not sick of each other by the end of November. Now, I can't figure out why is she running this schedule about when she's hanging out with Kimball, who Jeffrey set her up with. Like, why is she running this by Elon Musk? To be clear, I don't know. There could be, I guess, innocent explanations for this. Maybe, I don't know. But all I see are constant, powerful people either being introed to girls, talking about the harem, talking about beautiful ladies, and the FBI, they can't figure it out. They have no evidence to even investigate third parties. Why? I guess because they're rich and powerful. Around the world, we're seeing resignations, we're seeing people lose their status.
The worst at their job possible
we've
or
got
completely
multiple
nefarious.
presidents in the files. We've got the
You take
world's
your pick.
richest man in the files, several of the world's richest men in the files, and we just can't drum up any kind of evidence. It's just incredible to me. Now, I also want to talk about another rich and powerful person, and that is Peter Attia. He's a podcast bro. He's a longevity expert. And actually, funny enough, I read his book. And that's going to come into play here in a second because, oh boy, did I get some additional context. But let's start here with something that Peter Attia sent Jeffrey Epstein. He says, subject, got a fresh shipment. And then Epstein responds, me too. And there's a completely redacted image. Is that a girl? Or is this bad redactions? We don't know, although we'll find out in a second because later Peter responded to this. But Peter says, please tell me you found that picture online. Jeffrey responds, got a fresh shipment. Afraid not. Peter responds, the biggest problem with becoming friends with you. The life you lead is so outrageous, yet I can't tell a soul. Why, Peter? Why can't you tell a soul? Why don't you tell us now? Now that it's all out in the open, why don't you tell us why you can't tell a soul the secrets or the life that Epstein leads? And then we get another redacted photo, right? And then some more images, and Peter says, please tell me that's not where you actually are. And Jeffrey says, you can see the gym in the middle, just me and 4. And Peter says, I think you might have a more interesting life than the Dos Equis guy. Is this off the coast of France? No, it's my island in the
Bunch
Caribbean
of
near St.
ghouls.
Thomas. If you go to Google Earth and type in Little St. James. Beautiful. Isn't that nice? Behind closed doors, it's beautiful. In public, we'll hear about what a monster this guy is, right? But behind closed doors, when nobody's watching, oh, it's beautiful. There's some other stuff Peter Attia said, which I'm not going to get into. I don't think it's very, appropriate for medical professionals to be saying such things. But, this wasn't all business, right? This wasn't just doctor-patient kind of stuff. There's a lot of guy talk, a lot of banter between the fellas about ladies. And maybe that's why Peter Attia says that hopefully Jeffrey Epstein is in town when I'm back in 2 weeks. I go into Jeffrey Epstein withdrawal when I don't see him. So guys, these two were close. I mean, apparently so close that, Peter Attia goes into withdrawal when he doesn't see him. Peter Attia says, are you on island? Jeffrey Epstein says, P Beach, probably Palm Beach. And he says, what do you do when you get there? Jeffrey Epstein, guess. Peter Attia, besides that, I mean, they're not even trying to hide it, guys. This is barely code at this point. What do you do? Guess. Well, besides that, we know what you do, right? So it's so funny.
It's up there.
The FBI's like, we don't know. We can't tell what's out there. We have no evidence, right? No evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties, and then proceed to dump on us a ton of evidence, at least to investigate, right? I'm not saying these people are guilty. Obviously, all of them deny, don't admit, blame other people, say other people are responsible for everything. So that is taken as a given. I am not accusing anyone here. I'm just saying, seems like we got a few leads here, fellas. Some people to look at. Now, I want to address the fact that Peter Attia has actually responded to
So
this.
after this, I got
whole
one more
He says the
feel-good
following email. I
story.
sent my team last night. I sent a similar version to my patients as well. You put your trust.
This one should
credibility,
actually
hard
make
work,
people
what
smile
we
and
built
like
together,
this
and I take
stuff,
that
which is
responsibility seriously. You
disgusting.
deserve a complete and honest account of what did and did not happen. I apologize. It did not get this out sooner. I wanted to be thorough. He says, I was not involved in any criminal activity. My interactions had nothing to do with his abuse or exploitation of anyone. I was never on his plane, never on his island, never present at any parties. That said, I apologize and regret putting myself in a position where emails, some of them embarrassing, tasteless, and indefensible, are now public. So it's this apology. You know, he addresses
I will do that.
some of the things.
I will play the clip.
And he
Don't you
says
worry.
that some of it's just banter, right? Like I said, it's just guy talk, whatever that means. He claims that his got a fresh shipment was in reference to a photograph of bottles of metformin, and then Jeffrey responded with a photograph of an adult woman. I responded with crude, tasteless banter. He says one line in that exchange about his life being outrageous and me not being able to tell anyone is being interpreted as awareness of wrongdoing. That's not how I meant it at all. What I was referring to poorly and flippantly was the discretion commanded by those socials.
I
and
mean, you can send
professional
whatever you
circles.
want.
The
I'll try to
idea
watch
you
it.
don't talk about
That
who you
gorilla
meet.
thing you
I
sent
don't know,
ended
Peter.
up
This
flagging
seems
my
like
stream with
revisionist
YouTube.
history.
So
a little bit. I mean, personally, to
I
me,
could stand
as I'm viewing this, you know,
edit
third
that
hand,
one so I can
right?
put it up. But
Just from the outside
that VOD is
perspective.
dead
Now, Peter
on
says
YouTube.
he did ask Jeffrey about his 2008
So
conviction.
I'm
'cause
being
all
more
this happened
careful
afterwards,
these
right?
days.
He characterized it as prostitution-related charges. In 2018, I learned that this was grossly minimized. I was incredibly naive to believe him, and then later explains that in 2018, November, he read the Miami Herald investigative article, told him he needed to accept responsibility for what he did.
It was gorillas.
And said he even asked Epstein to provide therapy to Epstein's victims, which
Let
is
me pull this up real quick, and then I also need to set up the
Eventually he-
Discord.
an interesting approach to have here. Now, the funny thing is, there are some more emails between Peter Attia that we need to read, because remember that he said he read this 2018 article from the Miami Herald. I believe it's this one by Julia K. Brown in November 28th. It's about Jeffrey Epstein assembling a large cult-like network of underage girls. But in December, Peter Attia says, home is very good, work stressful, making some changes. He asks him, what's the fallout from the recent story? Apparently talking about the Miami Herald. Now, maybe I just didn't see the emails, you know, that where he was demanding accountability. I don't know what that's about, but Jeffrey Epstein says, same as usual, just tougher. Peter Attia says, legally, any change. Jeffrey Epstein, 0. So, you know, I mean, I don't know. Maybe this whole, you got to provide therapy
I
to,
could
you know,
probably
these.
just bring it up this way. Let's see if this scene works. Do. Yeah, just do it this way. And make it bigger.
I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. Okay, I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. Thursday night. You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years.
Sick. I mean, you're not wrong. We used to own Victoria's Secret, but yeah. Flexen turns over full financial control to Epstein, yet Epstein never had a money management license. Gifts him $77 million. Ludnick laughing.
I was introduced to him by
Big
the
Dirge.
lady-in-law Rothschild.
Wow.
And I told
Ruh-roh. As the plot continues to thicken. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's disgusting. Thank you for that moon. So I figured out a way to play it. Definitely worth it.
Victims happened. I haven't seen it yet. I definitely could see
that was a
it.
good
But it's just
rundown.
kind of shocking. I just kind of don't buy it. Like the whole, is there any change legally? That more sounds like you're covering yourself. I mean, just to be honest. But maybe I could look past all of that if not for the thing we're about to see, which just in my mind is maybe the worst thing I've seen in the files. Not for its, explicitness, the amount of simping that people did for Jeffrey Epstein. Now they all say, oh, it was a personal mistake, blah, blah, blah. I regret it.
Yeah, now that you got caught, you regret that you got caught.
But the level is just, you've never seen anything like it. So remember I said I read a book by Peter Attia. It was called Outlive, and he's supposed to be this doctor who knows a lot about longevity. So he writes it, and I picked it up because at the rate we're getting rid of these crimes, I need to live forever in order to try to stop some of these scams. But as I pick up this book, and one of the things in the book is Peter Attia kind of reflecting internally about how he's kind of been a bit, and I'm paraphrasing here, but a bit of a psycho in his life, and he needed to focus on family stuff. And so he kind of, it's almost a confessional of some embarrassing things in his life. And honestly, it comes off as very vulnerable, very self-reflective. You know, he's this doctor telling other people what to do, but he's not a very good patient. That's kind of how it comes off. And one of the stories is awful. I won't go too much into it, but basically his son has this horrible medical emergency. It's described in this book like this. A few months ago, Tuesday, July 11th, 2017, that date is important. At 5:45 to be exact, I received a call from Jill, my wife. She was in an ambulance with our infant son. Now, again, I'm not going to get into the details here because, it's tragic, and I'm not trying to bring that into it. What is relevant
for
is
example,
that
Bill Gates
Peter
was able
Attia
to
talks
change
about
the
how
curriculum for
he
some
stayed
schools and
in
it
New
ended up
York
costing a
and
bunch
didn't
of
show
money
up because
for no
he was,
improvement.
quote,
That is an undue
busy
influence.
with his important work.
Even if he isn't an
today,
expert, he's
just
able to
thinking about what
risk the
happened, I feel
education of an
nauseous
entire
about my
school
behavior.
district with
I
no
can't
impunity. I
believe
mean, yeah.
I did that to my family.
Absolutely.
Now, at the time I read that, and I was like, well, it's at
Money
least it's
breeds
good that
influence.
You self-reflected on that. It's horrible,
Influence
but yeah,
isn't
you're a bit of a
always good.
psycho. But what's crazy?
At least not for us.
Now we find out some of the important work. I mean, it's a little unclear, but some of the important work may have been Jeffrey Epstein, which is just, it's so dark to imagine. Remember, he says July 11th, 2017 is when this all happened. And then he says he did not come home to San Diego until Friday the following week, 10 days later. So July 11th, 2017, 2 days after this happens, he's talking to Jeffrey Epstein. And they seem to be coordinating about something. Sure, what time? Jeffrey Epstein, 9:30. Peter Attia responds, sure, I can come earlier. Also, if you have a hard stop at 10, let me know. You're hanging out with Jeffrey? I don't even know what to say. This is out of pocket. I mean,
see, that part is the bad part.
No
the fact that they will never be
I didn't
held
see
accountable
this
for
in
the things that they
in the
do.
response from Peter, I mean, maybe he thinks he addresses it because he already admitted that was like scummy, but that is just There's a reason that didn't make it in the book, is what I'm trying to say. I didn't see that in the book when I read it. You know, I didn't see, I was actually, you know, one of the things I needed to do, my important
Probably
work
why I
was
get so
seeing or
irritated when
talking
they
to
talk
Jeffrey
about,
Epstein.
oh, black crime, black
I mean,
crime.
isn't that weird?
What about this
Like,
nonsense?
That's the simping that I'm talking about, is these people love this guy. Or that's how it seems to me. Like,
I mean,
what
he was
are
getting
all
withdrawals,
these
Moon.
rich and powerful people doing, protecting him?
He had to feed the
missing
habit.
emergencies for Jeffrey, fawning over Jeffrey, asking for Jeffrey's harem, saying their biggest problem is the life they lead is so outrageous they can't tell a soul. I mean, what is going on here? And is it true they all didn't know, right? Because
Ain't
I'm
no
reading
way.
these documents, and it's hard to say who exactly knew what, when. But I don't believe, remember, they're all denying it, I don't believe nobody knew, right? Clearly, some people knew what was going on, and there's all this kind of coded language in the files where they talk about this stuff almost in like a nudge kind of way. I mean, here's some Woody Allen stuff. He was in the files. He says his business office, if you can make out the check to me, it looks very bad because then
He
it
should
looks
have to
like it
flee
gets
the
me.
country
He says
with
that
Roman
to Epstein.
Polanski.
He says, I don't want to be one of your women, or should I say, girls. And what's that? Oh, how do we...
Bruh.
Come on, guys. Woody says, I would be much more expensive than your girls. You wouldn't be able to afford me. Jeffrey responds, yes, the price to pay would be too high. Woody says, this will be a beautiful friendship. And then Jeffrey says, as long as I follow orders, smiley face. Woody Allen sends a message saying, Woody says the exact same thing, but in a dirtier way. Jeffrey responds, what did he say? Woody Allen, are you kidding? I can't put it in writing.
Bruh.
I mean, no evidence, no evidence. How? Come on, I think I see a little bit of evidence. I'm squinting, but I think I can see a little bit of evidence. I mean, guys, like Jeffrey Epstein right here, where he's talking to a guy, he says, Paris with Woody, and the person responds, for le pedophile convention. And Jeffrey says, I think pedophile is the plural. I mean, no evidence. I mean, is there no evidence? It's nothing. We don't even want to question these people.
Get Woody Allen in
There's
court
no
right now.
investigations
Stat.
going on. So,
Yesterday.
yeah, it's honestly really sad to see how, look, I'm not saying people around the world are having crazy consequences, but a few people are resigning, thank goodness. You know, a few people are at least facing a little bit of scrutiny, but here Elon Musk lays out the playbook, apparently for our guys. You know, we admit nothing, we deny everything, and we blame others. We just push the spotlight onto other people. And unfortunately, that's what you've seen the whole time from all the people in the files. You know, all of them
Elon
say,
even tried to
I'm
push it
so
on
happy
Trump.
these files came out. It's about shining accountability and justice for the victim.
bus flinging
But
has
I had
been
nothing to do
rampant.
with it. Okay, so then where's the justice for the victims? So nobody, you know, all of you say somebody else had something to do with it, but everybody says nobody had anything to do with it. The FBI says they don't
Couldn't
have
put
any
it
other,
better myself,
you know,
Mo.
investigations, any other kind of leads, despite the fact we have one of the procurers of the women.
So when I hear it as a
walking
talking
free,
point, it's hard not to
apparently.
laugh in
Like,
their
no
faces.
charges against him. Have we investigated him? I mean, it's just shocking how much the Epstein files show the powerful, how they protect their own.
And it's
how
amazing
so
how many
of
people
them
don't know
knew
about
what
that.
was going on, to the extent
I
they
don't know if
found
you've
out
heard of the
later,
Dark
a lot
Brandon
of them tried to
channel.
protect Epstein, like literally make PR campaigns for
Like,
his
this has been a
reputation.
normal thing
And this is a dark
in
look
society,
at
and I'm
the
glad it's
state of the
finally
world,
like to the
honestly,
point where people are
because
disgusted.
Epstein happened a while ago, but the reason
it's
everyone
taken too
cares
long.
is because there's other Epsteins around.
Let me
right?
find
There's
that
other
video. It's
people
pretty short.
evading accountability all the time. There's
Stream is
other
gonna go
people
longer than I
that
expected it
this
to.
band of billionaires,
I could
and
do this
power
all night.
brokers and PR people, even lawmakers, they circle the wagon
just
and
so
protect
much
their own to the point you
disgusting
can never
nonsense.
get accountability for anything. So anyway, that's it. It's a hard look at the Epstein files, but it's one we needed to do. But I want to make the disclaimer once again that, look, I've tried to read people's individual denials where I could, but you should just assume everyone that we are talking about
And his grandpa on
firmly
his
denies
mom's side was
any
a
kind of
Canadian
criminal
Nazi
wrongdoing.
simp.
They deny
Jeez.
anything untowards
I'm not
about any
shocked.
kind of minors. And given the fact that our government doesn't seem to want to investigate anyone, I would just assume everybody here is completely clear. And so
No,
I
how
want to
could
get
it?
all
He's
those
a free
caveats in here
thinker.
because we are talking about some
One of the
very
great
powerful
minds of
people
our time.
with enormous means. And I don't want to be seen as I'm saying stuff. I'm reading the files. I'm giving my personal opinion. But ultimately, this is an indictment of our FBI and the people in
And
power.
society.
That's what I think the Epstein files have really shown us. This
We
has
live
been
in a
long
society.
road. Can you believe it all started over here and we have come all this way with all these files coming out?
The floodgate keeps
and,
opening.
It seems like the question is on the table. Are there going to be consequences?
Is there any chance that any of these individuals who partied with Epstein and engaged in, relations with minors will be prosecuted? Any chance?
I'll never say
The fact
no.
that we have
And
to
will
ask
always
is
investigate
crazy.
Any evidence of misconduct, but as you know, it is not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein, and so as horrible as it's not a crime to email with Mr. Epstein, and some of these men may have done horrible things, and if we have evidence that allows us to prosecute them,
Does that mean I got to pull up in
will.
there?
But it's also the kind of thing that the American people need to understand that
Trash
it
pandas have
isn't
to be
a crime
dealt
to
with.
party with Mr. Epstein. It isn't a crime to have
Currently,
That's all
the
that was
trash
going
panda
on in
of the
some those
week is
photos. I mean, if the photos could
Comics
speak,
Explained.
some of them look pretty bad.
That's right.
Rob.
And unfortunately, photos can't speak.
All right, so this one.
Hey there,
And
folks.
then I'll hit
Hope
up the
you're doing well
Cavicular,
today.
and then I'll end the
Well,
stream.
the Epstein files have been released. We are seeing redactions and names are coming out. With all that being said, the culture war rages on. And not only that, but lines in the sand are being drawn. We can see alignments are being made, and we can see who is teaming up with the child predators. Today, we're looking at a YouTuber. She might be on some other platforms too, but on YouTube, she goes by Patriotic Peach. And a lot of her videos are just carrying the water for Donald Trump. She's probably getting a check for it. But in this video, we're going to see her take target at the Hollywood elite and make a case for more conservative entertainers while simultaneously making a case for child predators. You can't make it up.
I'd like to make a petition to bring these celebrities back.
Presley, what is your opinion of war protesters? And would you today refuse to be drafted?
Honey, I just seem to keep my own personal views about that to myself. I'm just an entertainer, and
Now, maybe she's young, maybe she doesn't know, but right after the Epstein files coming hot off
Yeah,
the
how old was
presses,
Priscilla
this is
when
not
they
a
first
good
got
look.
together?
Not only did Elvis Presley start dating his wife when she was 14 years old, he dated he actually had kind of infatuation with 14-year-old girls. It's
Sound
very
familiar?
Epstein-like. It's almost like the shit they're talking about in QAnon. You know, these Hollywood elite predators. And she's out here just co-signing it. Here, let's roll the tape.
When Elvis Presley first took to the stage in the mid-1950s, conservative America had a heart attack. But his young fans, particularly his young female fans, couldn't get enough of the soon-to-be king of rock and roll. Many of those admirers are now distinguished elders, and while they continue to adore Elvis, they're also revealing some long-held secrets. It seems the king actually dated quite a few of them when they were young teenagers. And for those with suspicious
bananas,
minds,
and I'm glad that he
Elvis
went out on the
Presley's
toilet.
obsession with 14-year-olds raises questions about him really being a devil in disguise.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the other examples she uses for entertainers the right wants to emulate were like Michael Jackson and R. Kelly. And I mean, all of this just leads you to asking yourself, why is the right so prone to child predators? Why do they see people doing Nazi salutes and they're like, I want to roll with him? Like, there's something seriously wrong with these people.
All right, so last bit of fun.
He's going to be soap maxing, and so whether he uses a soap to wash his body or to perhaps lubricate certain orifices, Clavicular is going to have a good time, or, well, depending if he likes it or not, a very bad time. Coach Greg, and you know it's serious when I'm recording at the airport, and so I'm at the airport, guy's saying, have you heard about Clavicular? And I'm like, what the heck is going on again? And they said, well, he's finally been arrested, and I'm thinking,
Bruh.
well, I was waiting to see how long it would take.
Never
Remember,
thought
he
I'd see
drove
the
over
day.
That man with the Cybertruck, the whole thing, and people were wondering how many years he was going to go to jail. And so I'm looking, and it's actually for something else. And so Clavicular, he can't seem to stay out of trouble. He's always doing something wrong. And at this point, I actually think he's doing it on purpose. I don't know if he wants to go to jail, if it makes him more viral, if he wants to be famous for doing something wrong, essentially infamous. But whatever he's doing, it's working. And so, why was he arrested?
Bro, I don't have, like, maybe in Florida, but bro, I don't have the power to just free collab like that. I don't know what he did. I didn't watch the clip, but like.
Well, everyone knows Clavicular. He's underage. In the United States, for some stupid reason, you have to be 21 years of age to drink alcohol. In Canada, it ranges from 18 to 19. And so only in the United States can you be an adult, can you go to war, can you vote, but you can't even take a drink. And so he goes to the bar. He asks to get in, and the bouncers basically says, have you been drinking tonight? And I'm thinking, why would he ask if he's been drinking tonight? I mean, isn't that kind of the point? You're going to a bar. What, you have to be sober when you get there to make sure that they get drunk while in there? And he says, no, I haven't been drinking anything. And so they let him in through the back door.
And if you don't know who Clavicular is, he's a right-wing influencer who constantly talks about looks maxing, promotes recreational substances, and loves to say the N-word on stream as often as possible, and asks the women in his orbit whether or not they've ever slept with a black dude. So, yeah. Karma's a
Upon
bitch.
entering the bar, he's drinking Red Bulls. He's not even drinking alcohol. And so you got to think, what are people doing when they go to the bar and they're not drinking? Do y'all think that they're just sitting there sober? Do you think people just go to the bar, sober as could be, 20 years old, trying to get girls? They're using recreational substances. That is what's going on. And so this guy, perhaps he doesn't like Clavicular, perhaps he's watched Coach Greg videos, he understands he's the worst social media fitness influencer in the world. He beat out Togi. And so he calls the police on him. Says, hey, we got a guy in here who's underage. Now, generally speaking, I wouldn't blame the kid. He's 20 years old. He's trying to sneak into the bar. They let him in. Hey, to me, that's on the bar. But upon searching him, they discover he has a fake ID, and that is, in fact, illegal.
A lot of people are confused why Claude got arrested for using a fake ID. This is pretty common in people under 21, and usually when this happens and you're underage and you use a fake ID at a bar, they just tell you to go home, and if they call the cops usually don't really do anything about it. But it turns out he was in the worst state possible for this. He was in Arizona, and using a fake ID in Arizona is a felony. That means he can go up to jail for 3.5 years just for using a fake ID.
And not only that, does anyone think that Clavicular is walking around with no bag?
And then while he was being arrested for that, they also found illegal substances on him, which is also a felony, which is another 3.5 years. That means he could spend up to 7 years in jail.
And so, of course, he's got a bag.
Wah,
In that,
wah.
allegedly, he's got some creatine in there. And I'm not talking about
Little
the creatine
creatine
that
powder.
you go to the gym. And so, last I checked, even though some people say you're not from the United States, you don't know the laws, it's not legal to have creatine on you when you're going to the bar, at your house, anywhere. And so if you have illegal substances on you combined with having a fake ID, add to that you're in the bar and everyone knows you and you've been kicked out of bars before, you're not let in, you've done all these crazy things, eventually somebody's going to be onto you and they're going to report you. And so he actually got arrested. Now, I'm watching the videos and I'm thinking, is this actually staged? But actually, from what I'm seeing, it looks to all be true. Now, what is this going to do? Well, I believe it's going to make him even more popular. Because if you actually like Clavicular,
pretty garbage, but
which
yeah,
means
it
there's
will
something
definitely
wrong
make
with
him
you,
more popular with
then
a
you're
certain
going to
group
like
of
the
people.
more bad things he does, the better. And you're going to be rooting for him. Yes, go Clavicular, go. And even if you don't like him, you're going to be rooting for him to fail. And so Clavicular, whether you like him or
that
not,
Peruvian
you're
flake
rooting for him,
creatine.
either in a positive way or a negative. And so he's currently jail maxing, and I do believe someone in a prison, if he's to be there for an extended period of time, they're going to like this. Because, I mean, after all, when you're a looks maxer, when you're trying to make yourself look as pretty as possible, when you're famous for that, eventually he's going to be soap maxing. And so whether he uses a soap to wash his body or to perhaps lubricate certain orifices, Clavicular is going to have a good time, or, well, depending if he likes it or not, a very bad time. Does anyone remember when Clavicular said he was getting that facial surgery, the double jaw massacre, oral navel folds. What the hell is he getting? He's getting like bone max. He's gonna get his cheekbones bigger, his folds here extended, his jaw pushed out. I don't know what he wants to look like. He wants to look like he's on some M the whole time, your jaw coming up. What exactly is he doing? He's trying to look max. He's trying to ascend. Ascend into what? Also, he added into this, he wanted to get his legs smashed and become taller. Now, how many months has it been since he said he was getting that facial jaw surgery?
too late
that
for
he was going to
pause.
spend like $35,000 or $50,000 so that he could go from being a Chad to a what's the next word after Chad? A Giga Chad. Yeah. And so, why hasn't this happened? And so you notice he talks a lot of talk, but when push comes to shove, he doesn't actually do anything. And so this is my personal opinion. He sends a bunch of lies. He makes a bunch of shit up. He tries to go viral by just saying things that he knows is going to get a lot of views. For example, did he actually do math? I'm not talking about school here, guys. Did he actually do the math? Was it Adin Ross that was saying that he had seen him do this? He was saying he was doing math to be thin so that he could be thinner to lose weight. He's also claimed to have done 15 grams of Reta-2 And I know he spoke with Alex Eubank. Hey guys, I watch a lot of videos. Trust me, I have to watch a lot to be able to do these videos. He said he was at one point doing 20 milligrams of Reta. 2 milligrams is a lot. 15 is ridiculous, and 20 makes no sense. And so, how many of you actually believe this? Like, if you just believe anything that comes out of Clav's mouth, then my opinion is you're an idiot. Or, well, you don't have to be an idiot. You just have an IQ of 79.
I am not that stupid. I was too hungover.
Most people in this world are average intelligence. And average is not saying much. Just like most people in this world. Well, if you look at them, there's a lot of people nearby. I don't want to say too much. How does my arm look? I don't know. And so there's too many people nearby, but the average person looks like shit. I'm not kidding. They really do look very, very bad. Average person is like, I think men was 29% body fat, women was like 39. And so average sucks. And so if you're average intelligence, you're actually an idiot. I'm sorry. That's just the truth. And so you're believing Clavicular
that's
in whatever
rough.
he says, which makes you an idiot. And so when he says, yeah, I'm going to get a facial surgery and I'm doing math and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, y'all believe it? He also said he had sexy time with over 100 girls. Do you believe he had more than 100? Triple digits? There's no way. Maybe 10. You really think there's 100 girls out there that are that stupid? Well, I mean, maybe, but I mean, not unless he's paying them a lot of money, of which I believe that he has a lot of money. And so, if the point is Clavicular actually arrested, or did he pay somebody to arrest him? Is he actually going to go to jail for this? And like,
Sure
I mean,
hope so.
honestly, he should be in jail for driving over somebody with a Cybertruck. Doesn't that make more sense? I think driving over someone with a Cybertruck and having no remorse, if it wasn't staged, of which perhaps it is, because that would make sense. Why is he in jail? Why haven't they arrested him? How is this just something you do and you just get on with your life? That is way worse than going into a bar at 20 when the drinking age is 21, of which it should be younger than 20. It's ridiculous. If you can vote
Coach Greg
for
is
the president
dope.
of the United States, you
And
should
a
be
little
allowed
petty.
to drink. Now, granted, it's a class 1 carcinogen, it's poison, and no one should drinking it. Only idiots drink alcohol, which is, of course, 50% of the population. But at least if you can make a stupid decision, you should be able to make another stupid decision. And so going to the bar, although it's a stupid decision, I think you should be allowed to do that at 18 or 19 years of age. Hey, it's just a thing. Either that or raise the voting age to something that makes more sense.
If he leaves the state of Arizona, he is going to catch more charges, and he is going to be revoked on release, okay?
One more thing that proves just how stupid Clavicular really is bro isn't on Turk Builder Max. He's not using HDLT supplements, and everyone knows that if you're using Turk Builder Max, you can't be arrested. It's kind of like...
And now he's shilling. Let's go.
When I was sneaking Turk across the border into Uzbekistan, various countries, you saw me hiding out in Mexico. The authorities couldn't catch me. And remember, I'm in, where am I right now? I'm in Miami, guys. Remember? I'm in Miami, bitch. I wasn't even allowed in the States for 11 years, and yet they let me across. Why do you think that is? It's the Turk Builder Max. You can pay off everyone with it. It actually builds muscle. It's better than creatine. It's the best natural supplement in the world. And don't forget, you can get this by entering code Greg, and you will get 15% off. And so that proves how stupid he is. The next thing that proves how stupid he is.
Beautiful show.
He's
Beautiful.
on testosterone. He's in abusing it since he was 14, and he's not getting it from Algorex. How many think he has a doctor that's prescribing him this stuff, that's telling him exactly how much to take and or not take, or whether he should perhaps, instead of using testosterone, he should be on enclomiphene? And when he's using Retta of the three, that's not even a legal peptide. And so if you go to Algorex, they don't have Retta, but they do have GLPs, enclomiphene, testosterone, telmisartan, various peptides. And so remember, it's all pharmaceutical.
I'm saying a lot of these dudes are so insecure and think that that's going to make a difference for them that they start doing
prices are. And to me, that
performance enhancing
unless you're a multi-millionaire,
substances,
you've got so much money, you just want
like
to
while
throw it
still
away.
in high school.
Why would you want to waste money on peptides? And so the moral of the story is use Turk Builder Max if you want to put on more muscle than last time, greater recovery, and if you don't want to get arrested. That's the whole point of the video. And so let me know in the comments section, do you think that Clav is actually going to be in jail for a long time? Are they going to actually arrest this guy for anything?
I say these people are like super insecure, and it should
What is going on with this world? Why is
come
he
off
even
that way to
bothering
most
go to
people that
bars?
watch
Why are
them,
bars
but
letting
people look
him
up to
in
these
if
people.
They know that he's underage in the first place. I mean, why? What is even going on? Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm, like the video if you liked it. Go to Algorex and buy stuff. Go to HLD supplements and buy stuff. And until next time,
All of my supplements are entirely legal. I would like to try that Turk Builder, but it is expensive, and I don't want to have to keep that up in my regimen. So most of my substances are cheap. Creatine, CLA is cheap, HMB is cheap, caffeine, tons of caffeine, easy stuff. Some protein powder. Yeah, it was HMB. I was thinking HGH. I'm like, no, it's HMB. Hey, how's it going, Horseradish? I was just about to raid out. Clavicular got arrested for being led douchebag. Yeah, that is good stuff. It's the best Freudian slip. Yeah, what was, I think I had something. Yeah, like these dudes here. These dudes stole a bunch of money.
I want you to meet Malone Lamb. See, in this picture, he's celebrating because him and his friends just got done stealing.
Oh yeah, I watched Bondi get cooked. She is so well done at this point that she's shoe leather. I don't know how she isn't getting caught up right now. I read the advisement from the Florida bar, like all that nonsense. I'd like to think it will matter, but it ain't gonna happen. But what search history?
$200 million. But him and his friends had a problem because after they stole that $200 million, him and his friends went straight to the club, went straight to the dealership, went straight to Louis Vuitton. Them boys started blowing that cash, which, as you can imagine, got them some unwanted attention. But before we get into that, I know what you're wondering. How did they get all this money in the first place? Well, you see, one day or night, I don't know, I wasn't there, Malone checked his pockets.
But I sincerely hope this stuff will matter.
So
I think all the inconsistencies, the lies, the perjury
other people
should catch up with them.
That want to scam like him, and they form a scam group. Real quick, I want you to take a look at how old they are. Now you could probably.
So apparently Pam Bondi and the DOJ was spying on the Democrats to see what they were pulling up as they were searching the documents, and had listings of what they had searched throughout the documents, more than likely so they could redact more of the information that they were finding. So literally lawmakers being spied on by lawmakers so that they can cover their tracks. It is diabolical. That was unbelievable.
They understand why they went straight to the club as soon as they got a bunch of money. But again, we're before they got a bunch of money, okay? So they meet up in the chat room. Malone said, look, I'm trying to shine like the rappers in them. Take pictures. Smile for the camera like Uzi and them with the handbag. Who with me? His fellow scammers, Veer and Jondell, remember those names, said, yes, let's do it. Oh, and they did it. Them boys got good fast. And what they were doing was they were stealing cryptocurrency from rich people.
Do I
And
still
when I
have
say
that up?
stealing, I mean a
Let me
couple
find it. I'll play it one more
$100,000 here,
time.
a couple million there. And here's where it starts to get wicked. As they're stealing money from these rich people, one day they find somebody who's
that's
super
it.
rich.
That's
they don't
the
know
ticket
how rich this
moon.
person
Make
is
sure
just
nothing
yet, but
was
they know they're
mixed.
rich. So they decide to do their usual scam. They get this rich person's email information and they start, let's say, spamming this email so it looks like it's getting hacked, right? So this rich person is getting alerts like, oh man, somebody looks like they're trying to log into your account. The rich person freaks out a little bit.
Oh, no,
but
it's
as
no
this rich
derail.
person- let's
I
call
was
him
gonna
Richie.
raid out
As
'cause
Richie,
it's
the rich
been a
person,
night,
Richie
but-
is freaking out. He gets a phone call.
I could
Ring,
literally
ring,
do
ring.
this all night
It's from
'cause
one of the
there's just
boys.
so
It's
much
from one of the
BS.
scammers. They said, hey, this is Google. It looks like your email is getting hacked. So why don't you, Richie, give us your email and password so we can log on and figure out what's
Where's
going
the
on for you.
thing?
Richie says, my email and password? What you need that for? They said, to calibrate
go.
the email.
All right, let me
you
run
guys are
this
Google,
up
so
since Radish is here. Yeah, this is crazy work. Bondi had a list of Democratic lawmakers Epstein filed search history during Capitol Hill hearing. High-profile House Democrat is accusing Attorney General Pam Bondi of spying on her search history while she poured through Jeffrey Epstein-related documents. After Bondi was seen at a combative congressional hearing Wednesday with what appeared to be a list of the lawmakers' searches. One of the printouts that Bondi referenced during the hearing was labeled Jayapal Pramila Search History, referring to Democratic Rep. Pramila Jayapal of Washington. The documents listed out at least 8 different files from the Justice Department's trove of Epstein records, including their file numbers and a brief description of their contents, according to images snapped by photojournalists who covered the hearing. Crazy work. It's not entirely how the list was compiled, but since Monday, the Justice Department has allowed several members of Congress to visit its offices and search through a database of unredacted Epstein files. In recent weeks, unredacted. In recent weeks, the department has made millions of records on the late sex offender public, but with redactions to take out survivors' names and other information, drawing criticism from some lawmakers who argue the redactions were excessive. Jayapal said in a statement to CBS News on Wednesday, it is totally inappropriate and against the separation of powers for the DOJ to surveil us as we search the Epstein files. Bondi showed up today with a burn book that held a printed search history of exactly what emails I searched. Said the Democrat who previously chaired the Congressional Progressive Caucus, that is outrageous and I intend to pursue this and stop this spying on members. Jayapal's office said she is organizing a letter to investigate what she alleges is improper surveillance of lawmakers who reviewed the Epstein files. Representative Jamie Raskin, the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, said in a statement Wednesday that he will ask the Justice Department Inspector General to investigate what he called an outrageous abuse of power. This is just getting Orwellian with these people, Raskin told reporters. They better cut it out immediately. Cut it out! Such strong language. Now that they've been caught, CBS has reached out to the Justice Department for comment. Jayapal was among the Democrats who sparred with Bondi during an hours-long and often pugilistic House Judiciary Committee hearing that focused largely on the Justice Department's handling of the Epstein files. At one point, Jayapal pressed Bondi on 2 of the documents that appeared on the Attorney General's search history list, pointing to them as examples of mistakes during the Justice Department's redaction process. Of course it was. One of the files was an email exchange between Epstein and high-profile Emirati Sultan, whose email address is blocked out, drawing criticism from lawmakers. The other file, which has been removed from the Justice Department's database, was an email with the subject line Epstein victim list that names dozens of people with few redactions. Jayapal asked Bondi to apologize to Epstein survivors for failing to shield their personal information. She also asked survivors who attended the hearing to raise their hands if they had not yet met with the Justice Department. And all the women that stood up had not yet been interviewed, wildly enough. Bonnie responded by criticizing Biden-era Attorney General Merrick Garland over his handling of the Epstein matter and said, "I'm not going to get in the gutter for her theatrics." Yeah. And thank Ike for providing us with this information, because I would not have seen it because I've not been checking the news. I've just been losing my mind through every video that comes up. Ike is the greatest. W. Ike. Jayapal asked Bonnie to apologize to the Epstein survivors. Jayapal is not the only congressional Democrat to raise questions about the system set up by the Justice Department for lawmakers to search through the Epstein files. Representative Suhas Subramaniam of Virginia said earlier Wednesday that the department set up 4 computers in a really tiny room and created a unique login and password for each one of us. He also said lawmakers weren't allowed to bring phones into the room and were only allowed to take written notes in a standalone notepad. They were trying to make it as hard as possible for us to connect the dots, Subramanian said, told streaming host Aaron Parnas. God, Ike. Oh, no, don't feel bad. He was trying to get you. No, but Ike is a real one. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and raid out. Is there any... I'm going to raid Ico. Ico's cool. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me through this madness. I have had a blast, even though it's hot garbage that we're viewing. At least we're seeing it come to light and we're putting the dots together to see who these horrible people are. So if you ever get a chance, remind them. And as always, chat is the true winner. I appreciate y'all. Have a good night. Catch you next time.